After almost 2 months, the VSCA Sports Car Championship returns, and what better way to return than with a championship finale. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Green Flight TV and to round number 8 at Virginia International Raceway. My name is Ola Ramble, alongside Austin Edstrom. We are bringing you all of racing action from round number 8 of this 10-race series this afternoon. Austin, there might be 3 races to go in the series as a whole, but for the Sprint Cup, we see that championship close out today, as this is the final sprint race on the year. The only other 2 races, a 6-hour race at Homestead Miami Speedway, and then, of course, Petit Le Mans, 10 hours coming up in October for the final race of the year at Road Atlanta.
Yeah, really cool. We get 2 separate championships through the season here in the VSCA Sports Car Championship. Kind of allows us to have multiple moments of excitement here at VIR. Getting a little bit of early excitement, right? 3 races still to go, but we're crowning a couple champions here tonight for the Sprint Cup. So I'm excited to see who brings home the championship for the sprint races here tonight in all 4 classes. Really close in 3 of them, and even the 4th, the LMP2. It's not so spread apart that you wouldn't be too surprised if somebody from further back comes back and wins this thing in the last race.
When we take a look at the overall point standings throughout the overall championship, of course, the big one that a lot of teams are looking to right now, MSP still up by well over 100 points on HAC Racing in your GTP standings, and World of Sim Racing team really dropping back, and now they are now almost 250 points behind MSP. Realistically, about a 2-horse race for the lead and for the championship in the GTP standings. And Austin, of course, the LMP standings have been one that we have been steadily keeping an eye on throughout the entire duration of the season, and it is still one of the closest championships got of the season, with FRS Sim Sports now in the points lead.
I mean, the top 4 are separated by 36 points. I mean, that's ridiculous, coming down to 3 races to go. And you got to look at the I know we don't have the sprint championship list up right now, but Going Racing is up in the lead of the sprint, so they're trying to defend their lead in the sprint here today and make up some ground in the main championship.
No kidding. It is going to be an absolutely wild run for a lot of these drivers. Then, of course, we look to the GT Pro standings here this afternoon, and it is going to be none other than still a Fisher Motorsports 1-2. But they did swap which one of those cars was at the points lead. They've been flip-flopping back and forth all season long, and all of that flip-flopping has allowed for Kinetic Racing to slowly but surely reel them in. They are now less than 100 points out for the points lead as well in GT Pro.
Yeah, Kinetic Racing not too far behind. So still plenty of teams in it for the championship at the end of the day in all of these classes. I mean, it's still super, super close. Very competitive here in VSCA. And then jumping into the GT-AM, Screeching Moose Motorsports still with that lead. It has been consistently kind of cut into by that Digital Chicane 80, right? Like, they've been really quick the last couple of times that we've gotten a call. Now, we've had a pretty big break, so it's been a little while. But Digital Chicane, it's a big gap to make up, but 3 races left. If they continue their pace, they'll need a little bit of help from Screeching Moose having bad nights, but it's possible.
So far, Screeching Moose Motorsports, the only team to break into the 3,000-point bracket this afternoon. And again, they are sitting just over 250 points clear of Digital Chicane. You are correct, right? I mean, Digital Chicane has been running them down to that number 80 entry. But you have to wonder, right, with still over 250 points to reel in just 3 races, is that going to be enough time if SMM has a good rest of the season?
No, period. If Screeching Moose Motorsports finishes on the podium the rest of the time, I don't think they have a chance. But I don't know. Digital Chicane has just had the pace, and you never know. I know that this is a sprint race, so it's not too long, but you never know with the longer endurance-style races that we run the last 2 races of the season. Screeching Moose, you never know. Plenty of time in those races to make a mistake, lose a ton of points. Now, this is a sprint race, but it's a whole lot more treacherous than most racetracks. Green on both sides. Very, very punishing course, where if you run wide, you're going to run way wide, lose a good chunk of time. So I think there could be room for mistakes, room for errors here tonight. But I still think Screeching Moose has such a healthy lead that their strategy is probably going to be a little bit different than it was at the beginning of the year.
The track temperature this afternoon is going to be, I think, a really big one to keep an eye on out here throughout the day. 51 degrees Celsius, that is over 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Absolutely blistering track temps out there right now. And as we've seen before, these cars, not the biggest fans of that. So that could very well throw some shakeups into this race when we grid up in about 20 seconds.
I appreciate you converting that for me. There was no way I was going to do that in my head this early in the morning, and I had no idea what 50 degrees Celsius was, but it sounds hot. And well, 120 Fahrenheit out on the racetrack, just about the least amount of grip that you get on iRacing. I've only probably seen it up to 127 in officials. So really, really hot track temp out there right now for this qualifying session. And that's probably going to lead itself to a lot of mistakes in the main event. I mean, 2 hours and 40 minutes of 120 degree track temp does not sound fun.
Well, with all of that, we'll get set to take a rundown of your starting grid as we will duke it out one final time for the Sprint Cup here for the VSCA Sports Car Championship. Starting this race from pole position, you got none other than Danny Fonte for World of Sim Racing Team. Chris Optime for HAC Racing picks it up in the number 2 spot. Joao Garrido for GS Racing Esports Team starts in 3rd with Kyle Burney from Mayor Simspeed Performance in 4th. Fisher Motorsports starts in the top 5 with Patrick Roll alongside Pedro Vargas for NGC Esports Team by Ruiz Goss. Then DS Racing Esports Team's other entry, Ricardo Santos, brings it up in 7th place. Tyler Campbell for Grizzly Motorsports is in 8th. And Bravos Shatton's Felipe Sonner will be down in the number 9 spot for a 9-car GTP field.
Your top 2 in the sprint standings in LMP2 line up the front of it, Rising Painted Racing and Goin Racing. They're really, really tight at the top of the LMP2 standings. 3rd place is Bart Macha for Tri-State Racing. Luca Harmoning in 4th for GSE Racing Esports. Jan Zalacious in 5th place with Rain DeBoer for Scours S's Racing in 6th. Chris Cadiz in 7th for Tri-State Racing's number 321. Damian Benke in the Vision 1 Motorsports number 11 and 8. Michael Adamczyk in 9th place for Fisher Motorsport, and Michael Kuliga for Vulture Motorsports rounds out the 10-car LMP2 field.
And rolling into GT Pro, Bruno Carrera brings it up a DS Racing Esports Team alongside Race Tech Competition. Simon Royer-Husum to kick off the front row. Row number 2 holds Michelle Velazzi for North Sim Racing alongside Stefan Dobes from Fisher Motorsports. The sister Fisher car running 1-2 right now in the championship. Nicholas Soul brings it up in 5th. RPM Racing's Mark DeBoer making the switch from the Porsche 911 car all the way over to the new Chevrolet Corvette GT Pro machinery. So they're going for a car swap for the rest of the year. Jeremy Littleton for Vulture Motorsports brings it up in 7th. Marco Pereira for World of Sim Racing Team is 8th. Kinetic Racing's Aiden Campbell is 9th. Neil Middleton for Torque Freak Racing rounds in the top 10. And it is Delta Racing's Higo Oliveira to bring it up down in the number 11 spot.
Coming down to the GT and Patrick Boylert for Off in the S's Racing heads up the field. Kyle Lowe in the Digital Chicane number 93 going to be starting in 2nd. Screeching Moose Motorsports going to be starting in 3rd with Lucas Santos, with Shreyas Venkataraju for Vulture Motorsports in 4th. Errol Eriksoy in 5th for another Vulture Motorsports. Entry 6, Tiago Pontes for DS Racing Esports Team. Roy Vermeer for Firestorm Motorsports in 7th. Paulo Calvo in 8th. Digital Chicane's number 80. That's a championship contender. They got to make up a little bit of ground here today. Will Robertson in the Mayor's MC Performance number 34 and 9th. Ronald Gross in 10th for Real Pixel Motorsport. Mark Romaninski for Dangler Performance in 11th. And then Christopher Limprecht for Wolf Motorsport Sim Racing Team in 12th.
Quite a few drivers withdrawing their entries in the 2024 season following the summer break. So it'll be a total of 42 cars getting set to rumble. But out of those 42, we only have 39 on the racetrack. One of the BMWs, Bravos Shatton's Acura, and then the Division 1 Motorsports, the RP217, are all down in its pit road. We didn't talk about this much, but of course, with the newest update on iRacing comes with it a brand new look for some of these cars. They, of course, had the Chevy Corvette GT3, and then, of course, the Ford Mustang GT3. VSCA decided you get the chance to make one swap. They'll put the Corvette into the GT Pro category and the Mustang into GTM. If you want to change, you got one shot to do it. Most teams have opted to stick with familiar machinery. RPM Racing taking a big gamble, though, with that Corvette down in GT Pro. And then, of course, you got the Mustangs just a little ways behind it for GTM on a whole new ball game back there as well.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of hard races at the beginning of this thing. A lot of guys, the sprint race is 2 hours and 40 minutes. I know it's a long time, right? You think 2 hours and 40 minutes, man, that's a long race. But for the VSCA Sports Car Championship, I mean, it's obviously a sprint. And these guys are going to be aggressive from the drop of the hat. I do think that there's going to be a few guys trying to come to the field fast, as fast as possible, not necessarily taking their time. And again, it all comes down to what driver you got behind the wheel at that given moment, whether you got your fastest guy, whether you maybe got your slowest teammate to start the race, but they're really consistent and just going to be smooth. A lot of different strategies can form at the beginning of this things and set us up for an interesting race.
So the championship looking set to kick on off, and for the sprint championship, it's looking pretty settled for some of the teams. In particular, LMP2 go and race effectively, just has to finish within the top 6 today, and they should be good to go if they can keep that car out of trouble. Of course, with GTP and Mayor Sims Performance hoping for a podium finish, that could lock the championship out for them. Same story for Fisher Motorsports' is number 44 entry and Screeching Moose Motorsports. So 3 of the championships within 75 points and 1 of them over 100. And we're going to get set to see who's going to be where when we go racing in just a few seconds' time. As always, we are happy that you are joining us on a Saturday morning, a Saturday afternoon, or a Saturday evening, whatever time zone you happen to be watching us from. The iRacing safety car pulls down into pit road, and they work their way down to the front straightaway. Top of the field, it is in the hands of Danny Fonte for World of Sim Racing team. As they enter that restart zone, it was marked by the tire bundles, and now waiting for the green flag. Green flag's out! We're racing at Virginia International Raceway for the final race of the Sprint Cup. So far, a good getaway for World of Sim Racing. HAC just alongside, all the LMP2s funneling in the background as well. They're able to get themselves sorted clean and green through turn number 1.
The GT Pros and GT AMs getting ready to take off. At the front of their field is the Digital Spirit DS Racing machine driven by Bruno Carrera. He leads us down to the green flag and down into turn number 1. A little bit more spread out between a couple of these guys, making some moves down to the inside, a little bit further back into turn number 1, side by side. From third on back, it seems, through the GT field. Just trying to find a hole, trying to find some separations. We've already got a replay. Must have had some contact down to 1.
That was actually before they even took the green flag, and that was one of the GTM Mustangs that got spun around. Kristen Limprecht for Wolf Motorsports Sim Racing, making their seasonal debut here this afternoon for that 515 Mustang. But for now, the main pack working down the back straightaway as this field is hightailing it off early on. Danny Fonte leads the way from Christophe DeMay, and Garrido just a little ways behind in third. So far, very clean start to this race, and I don't think anybody's got anything really to complain about just yet. Although, off goes the race leader for GTM, putting them in a side-by-side battle with Kyle Lowe in Digital Chicane.
Boiler having a little bit of an issue, but he did qualify so well that he was into the GT Pros, right? His qualifying position, his grid slot was in the middle of the GT Pros, so a little mistake, not going to completely destroy him. It does put Kyle Lowe right on the back bumper in that number 93, though, giving him an opportunity about 2/10 back to at least stay with him, maybe nullifying some of that advantage that they found on the qualifying session.
So Danny Fonte will take the lead for World of Sim Racing early on. He'll lead lap number 1. Christian Kempreger takes it up for Rising Panda Racing. Bruno Carrera looking to lead lap number 1 to the GT Pro category. And then, of course, it'll be Patrick Boiler for off of the SS Racing. Having a little moment, but they're able to get themselves sorted. They're going to be back up and in the fray. Got a little battle deeper in the field here in GTM, and the swap for 6th place as Thiago Montes making a move on Roy Vermeer towards turn number 1.
Yeah, Vermeer still looking to the outside. They're side by side behind for the 8th place spot. Robertson and Calvo going at it, coming down into turn number 1. Calvo looking to the inside, trying to take a position. A little slow on the apex in the center there for the car in front. Thought it might slow up. Sorry, I think it was Robertson that was making a move on the outside. I thought it was. Spinner coming through turn 4. Is that Limprick that's spun around, stuck sideways? A bumper cover flies off. That's the Digital Chicane number 80, right? That's the second place in the championship with the front nose completely knocked off.
It sure was, but it was actually the Delta Racing BMW that went off, and he's got big damage on that car. He's going to be forced to pull it off to the side at turn number 3. We've also got 2 of the LMP2s off in a big crash for Tri-State Racing and LMP2. GSC Racing Esports is also off the road. We've had a huge mess for 3rd place in your LMP2 category.
Oh, that's huge. That is huge. LMP2 is the furthest in terms of the championship standings for the sprint race. Obviously, really, really close for the main championship. So that's going to be tough for a couple of those guys that were fighting for the main championship, and it's going to be tough for Rising Panda to now have enough cars in between them and Goen to win the Sprint Cup at the end of tonight, with them running 1st and 2nd in LMP2. A couple of their contenders getting taken out early.
Boy.
Contact between a couple of the GT Pros, the 55, looking for the race lead.
That could have been disastrous. Race tech competition nearly cleaning out Bruno Carrera. They got kind of moved onto the grass a little bit, overshot the entry at the end of the backstretch, and they're able to get it back sorted. But a big crash for Luca Harmony and Bart Machicha. Take a look, and oh boy,
Oh!
oh boy! Huge hit, and that was almost up and over for a couple of them. Take another look back at this, and
oh, he
Yikes.
turned in way too hard to that kink. Way too hard.
that is a huge impact into the wall for both cars, especially though for Bart Machicha. Look at that car get up and into the air and nearly flipped over.
And we've gotten kind of late on the replay, so I don't want to say that 100% that he cut in a little bit too hard. Maybe the car in front missed the apex ever so slightly. But from the second angle we saw, it really looked like a little early of a turn in there for the Tri-State Racing Machine. And unfortunately, just a little bit early, right? Way too early to be racing that hard. I know I said in the pre-race, hey, it's a sprint race, so you're going to see guys be a little bit more aggressive. That was still maybe a little bit too on the nose on the aggression.
So the battle in GT Pro is still raging on. There you see Bravo Stowe Shatton. Of course, they started this race from pit road. They are now battling their way up through this field. They've been very patient, though. They've been just kind of moseying their way through. And boy, those blinking issues are not helping their case either. But right now, it is a Cadillac 1, 2, 3 for the overall spots at the head of this field. And the first Porsche running back and forth for Fisher Motorsports. And then, of course, MSP just a little ways behind them as well. Danny Fontaine, this might be a track that plays to his strengths from the looks of things. And World of Sim Racing, they're looking really strong in the opening 5 minutes.
My word, the way that car handles the S's, right? The way that it just gets through those fast left and right corners, it's absolutely mesmerizing at speed. It's going to be unbelievably chaotic whenever he gets into the GT traffic. If you catch any GT traffic through that unbelievably quick section we just got out of, these GTP cars are going to have to be checking up, slowing down, maybe running off the racetrack to complete passes on some of those guys. So I think that's going to be a little hairy whenever we get to the lap traffic, a little bit more than normal.
Firestorm Motorsport coming down and into pit road for the first time tonight, and they're not the only ones. Paolo Calvo with a lot of damage to his front end. And I think this was the number 80 digital chicane runner that we saw earlier on. And there's Garrido coming down to pit road. So Garrido is also into the pits. Meanwhile, there's Fonte still leading the way. We'll try to get a ride on board with him as they come on down through the S's, because that's lap traffic right up the road. So this will be a good indicator of what these guys are going to have to deal with all day long.
And I'm seeing a message to the number 50 of Bravo Snow Shatton. Apparently their internet connection is completely cutting out. They're blinking like crazy. They're going to have to come down pit road to actually fix the internet issues before they're allowed to continue. So a little bit of the field getting shuffled here. We just saw one of the GTPs come down pit road. Now we're seeing, or are going to be seeing, the Bravo Snow Shatton number 50 come down pretty soon.
Take a ride on board with Danny Fonte out of Madrid as he fires through the hill up on the back of the GTMs, and he's going to cut to the left to get around them. But yeah, that does a good job of showing you just how quickly the closing rates are with some of these cars. Thankfully, he's got a good straightaway here where he can be able to get out in front. Garrido back out onto the racetrack, 35 seconds in the box. I wonder if perhaps that was a black flag of some sort. Track limits are a particular issue at some points. There's Bravo Shatton going off the road. But it was actually brought up in discussion, right? There's that little bit of a line right when you're trying to come down to pit road. And again, we're going to ride on board here. Look over on the right-hand side for that paint right on the inside of the apex. Right there. You see that yellow and green paint? You do get a stop-and-go penalty if you drive too far over that. I wonder if that's what happened there to Garrido.
Really? You get a stop-and-go penalty if you drive over that on the inside, like, and stay on the racetrack?
40 seconds, somebody was saying.
Oh.
In the driver's meeting.
I'd be willing to bet that's what it was then. I mean, probably a pretty easy mistake to do, especially getting around some of the slower traffic. Trying to make a move around somebody, you dive late to the inside, just clip that inside paint just a little bit too hard, and you catch yourself out. So that's not... I mean, it's surprising that that's a penalty, right? It seems like it's just kind of part of the racetrack if you're not committing to pit road, but hey, iRacing has it coded that way for a reason.
Something, gaining an unfair advantage, something. That's about all I can sum up for that one, unfortunately. Bravo Snow Shatton tumbling through the order. It looks like they may have backed out of the race. RPM Racing and Mark DeBoer, I'm a bit surprised that we haven't seen them further up the field, right? I mean, this is a car that has been very frequently fighting for the podium spots. You wonder if maybe this is partially to do with that Corvette decision and if they're regretting that right about now.
Well, you know, they got to get used to it too, right? You make the change in the middle of the season, and it's just going to be different. And who knows? This could just be a bad track for the Corvette, right? New car, you never know exactly what tracks is going to be beneficial. And, you know, the 911, I don't know exactly where they're sitting in the standings. Let me check real quick to see.
Well, that would be number one right now for the race standings by 2 seconds over the nearest Audi. So Bruno Carrera, I mean, the DS Racing Esports 992 that, you know, RPM is frequently fighting with, up on them by 6.2 seconds right now.
Yeah, so the 911 in 5th of the Sprint Cup. So I imagine they're just trying something different in terms of for the championship for the end of the year. I think that they're just trying to try something. I think it's been pretty frustrating. I think the 992 has been leading the way in the championship most of the season. Or has been one of the cars to beat. I think they're just trying to find a little bit more pace. Maybe the Chevy's not the way to do it, but I mean, you have an opportunity in the middle of the season to change cars, and the only one you can change to is one of the new ones, right? You can't change to another one of the good cars that we already know about. So I don't know. I like the call. If you're struggling a little bit in the championship, having a bit of a hard time. Danny Fonte in the race lead was having a hell of a time getting around a GT-AM just a moment ago. Really tight through these quick S's, and he's got 4 more in front of him. As the 216, he spun it around. That's Kulaga in the LMP2.
He was up the inside of Rain DeBoer for Scours SS Racing, and the Vulture Motorsports driver nearly went to the side of it. Did a good job, though, to lock it down and keep it out of him. Meanwhile, a 3-car scrap with Ricardo Santos, Tyler Campbell, and Pedro Vargas all looking to go at it up in the GTP category. So far, as always, the LMP2 field, the first one to really kind of break apart. Nobody in that class within 2 seconds of each other right now, but a lot of the GTP runners still within a second, about 2 to 8 tenths right now. And there you see the battle for the number 2 spot. DeMay trying to fend off Kyle Burney, who has fought his way up to 3rd.
And again, all these guys coming through the lap traffic, everybody having to deal with it. It's all about where you catch it and how you catch it. DeMay doing a really good job in that 2nd place position, trying to work his way through on the inside now as we come up to the front straightaway, making sure you don't clip it onto that paint as we have so smartly learned, and then back through the little kink. The big draft there from Bernie coming down the front straightaway, looking to the inside, maybe just trying to put DeMay off a little bit. Not going to be able to do it down into turn 1, though. DeMay covers him off, hits the apex nicely, and holds on to that 2nd place position.
Further behind, the battle for 5th still rages on as well. 5th, 6th, and 7th all under a blanket as they're battling their way through GT Road traffic, and around goes Pedro Vargas. And he's going to collect the other digital chicane car. Kyle Lowe gets caught up, and again, it is another cursed race for both cars of the digital chicane crew. They cannot catch a break all season long. It has been one thing after another, and we're going to see now what happened here. Just cuts to the inside, locked up, went to the side of the GTM race leader, it looked like. There was just nowhere for Kyle Lowe to go. I
can't tell if the AM leader squeezed him or if they locked up and came off the apex and hit him. Gonna get a better view here coming down into the corner. Again, like you said with the digital chicane cars, I've never seen the bad luck bug strike so heavily. Oh, he just got turned in on. I don't know if it's too late of a move, right? I mean, it's a faster class car coming up on a GT. I don't quite know how they're gonna rule that in the steward's room. I'm not the smartest whenever it comes to the multi-class incidents and how to officiate them. Yeah, kind of a late move down to the inside, but I don't know. It felt like he was there by the time the turn-in point hit and he got hit checked. Unfortunately, like I said, the one that's really frustrating is the digital chicane number 93. I mean, you said it. Week in, week out, the digital chicane cars have pace. They have speed. They've got some quick drivers. But every week, it seems like they're taken out from something that they didn't do.
You would think they'd be running in the GT Pro category. They might be having more luck up there in the GT Pro field right now. There goes Kyle Lowe down to the pit road. So that digital K93. Once again, another recovery drive. Battles on for 3rd in LMP2. Tri-State Racing, well, one of them at least, trying to fend off Rusty Spatula's Racing. So Chris Cadiz trying to hang on against Jens Zalachis down further. I think that's how you pronounce it, right? Rusty Spatula's Racing, the 112, trying to battle for a podium spot.
We just saw Earl Uruksoy on the grass through 1 and 2 in the GT-AM. He was way out wide. He lost a good chunk of positions. He was running, I believe, in 3rd. Now he's outside of the top 5 in GT-AM. Looking at Pereira here in the GT Pro, and now looking back at a replay to see exactly what happened down into turn 1. Just missed his braking zone. Just missed his braking zone.
Oh, and the Neil Middleton spun out as well.
Yeah, I didn't even catch him. Another GT Pro going around. So GTM, GT Pro going off in turn 1. And now back to live as we're looking at Pereira once again in the GT Pro, trying to pick his way back through the field. He's got a couple faster cars in front of him, though. Not going to be able to make any type of moves as we switch over to a battle for third place in the GT Pro class. Fisher Motorsports trying to hang on from North Sim Racing. North Sim about 3/10, 4/10, 5/10 of a second back now as they go through the S's with the faster car sandwiched in between.
Stefan Nobes and Michelle Velazzi right now doing a good job on just trying to hang on for whatever they can get. And they are losing time to the other Fisher Motorsports cars. So North Sim Racing could find themselves in a Fisher Motorsports sandwich before too long if they're not careful. So you got 2, make that 3 Porsches all in a line right now. They're all trying to catch up to Simon Rohr, who's up the road of the Race Tech competition. Audi? That Audi's been kind of all over the map so far this season. It's frequently had some top field pace, but it just hasn't ever really had too much of the luck that it's needed throughout the year. But this looks like it could very well be their night. They're just over a second and a half off of Bruno Carrera.
Yeah, not too big of a pace difference between them and the 992 in front. I feel like the 992 has kind of been the car to beat in the GT Pro Series all season long, at least one of them. And right now, the 55's not letting them get away too far. Only 2 seconds of a gap, and not too much lap traffic right now to deal with. A couple faster cars getting ready to come through, but as much as that hurts you whenever they pass you, it also hurts the guy in front if they catch him at a worse spot. So here for the 55, just kind of hoping that they let the lap traffic through in a better manner than Carrera up front in the 992. These two battling still for the third place spot, though. Nobes and Velazzi going at it as an LMP2's trying to get by.
You got one of the GTPs trying to get through a lot of traffic there. That is Garrido, the DS Racing Esports driver. And now a battle on for the third place spot. Patrick Rawl and Kyle Burney both going at it as they are getting steadily closer to one another. So the fight for third could be on as well in GTP.
Yeah, Kyle Burney hanging on from Rawl here. The 3 and 4 cars running 3rd and 4th on the racetrack in the GTP class. A little left-hand kink into the right-hander. Long sweeping right-hander, kind of a double right before we get a little bit of an S action. Full speed, especially in the GTP. Just no even thought of lifting through there. And then even through this section, I don't think you're lifting one bit. Fast left, fast right, fast left. Another fast right. And then finally, you kind of start coming up towards a braking zone finally way up here. I mean, it's unbelievable how fast these GTP cars get through that section of the racetrack. The time loss, if they're stuck behind a GT Pro, GTM, is just absolutely insane.
Just wait till they try to battle side by side through there. You know that's an inevitability.
Oh, no. I don't know if I want to see that tonight. In the faster cars, I almost feel like it's a guaranteed wreck. I don't know how you can go that fast through that narrow of a section of the racetrack side by side. I don't know if it's quite possible. I think the GT Pros and GTMs are a lot easier to do that. But if these guys somehow stay side by side all throughout those S's, I would probably drop them both $100 because I don't believe it could happen.
Well, I know in the LMP2s it can happen. I saw that happen during the Pro Car Concepts Road Challenge Series last year when they came out here. So it's possible. I don't recommend it, but it is possible.
A little scary, I would say. It's just probably not worth it, especially, 2 hours and 20 minutes in. Now, if we get down to, 2 minutes and 20 seconds in, then or left in the race, then go ahead, go for it, right? You got to take your shots whenever you can. But in early going, race preservation, right? Race preservation. Let's not do anything too crazy. I think going side by side in the GTPs or even the LMP2s through that fast S section at this point in the race, so just, you're kind of asking for trouble.
There you see the battle for fourth place. Tiago Pontes for DS Racing Esports team, trying to keep Mayor Sims Performance behind in the number 5 position. So the battle for fourth is on, and that is Marco Pereira, the World of Sim Racing BMW GT Pro, that's caught behind this battle. The next car up for Pereira, looking like that would still be about 15 seconds up the road. So he's not in an active battle right now, Pereira. I think that's why he's not showing too much urgency on trying to get by this battle for fourth here right now.
Yeah, if you're just kind of stuck in your own battle, you know, you're running your own race at this point, right? If you're not anywhere close to anybody 15 seconds back off of your next competitor, you know, just keep your car clean. You never know whenever that yellow flag's going to come out. Maybe save yourself a little bit of gas, be able to stretch your fuel limit, put yourself on a little bit different strategies than some others. Could be seeing that out of a couple of these GT pros that have been struggling at the early going.
And now the BMW looking like he wants to get through. Marco Barrera getting by the Ferrari, and now he'll have to fight his way around the Mercedes as well to get that job done. Battle's on for second as well. This Porsche duo has been steadily catching up to race tech competition over the last little while, and you can see it looks as though Simon Rohusum, a lot of that speed might be starting to drop off here later in the stint.
Oh! Your race leader just got shoved off the racetrack by a slower car, had to give up a ton of time. Got it through the grass and was able to hang on, but it was very tight coming through the S's. Again, it just going through the lap traffic is tough in the S's. I couldn't imagine going side by side in the GTPs, but here it is. He makes one move on one of the digital chicane cars. And then coming through these quick S's here in a moment, he ends up looking to the outside of the GTM, and it's maybe not the right move to make, I gotta say. Coming up right to here, I believe is where it is. This, yeah, the end of this left-hander. He goes to the right. I feel like the move to make is to the left, right? You got to think that they're going to take the racing line if you're the GT Pro or GTM. I just feel like the better move there was to maybe go for the undercut.
But disaster avoided. That's the important thing. He kept it out of the wall, and we're
lost 2.5 seconds.
He lost 2.5 seconds, but he kept it out of the wall. It could be worse.
Fair. I agree with you on that. And he's getting through a bunch of the slow traffic now on the front straightaway who are holding him up through the last sector. It's really allowed Hack Racing to pull back up to the back bump to the 111 of Christophe Demay, looking to take it down at a turn one, just not going to be close enough to do it. But like I said, they cut off 3 seconds. That lap completely erased the lead that Danny Fonte had worked so hard to get. Now we're back into that quick section of the racetrack, and there's a lot more lap traffic in front of these guys.
So could this be the move for Demay to try to take that spot away from Danny Fonte? They're about to enter the S's here, and they're right behind one of the MSP Mercedes. Flash the headlights, get out of my way, I'm coming through. So he's through, and now Demay trying to do the same to not lose too much time.
What does Fonte do here? The Mustang, slow, it's just so tight, so tough to get around. It kind of closed the gap back up for a second, but Demay then had to get around the Mustang, and it completely slowed him down. So that's going to stretch the gap back out to a 1.5 seconds, and kind of quell that battle for the race lead for a moment. Kyle Burney's still hanging on to that third place spot, the third and fourth place positions, going to the number 3 and number 4 cars currently in the GTP class, and it's been like that for the last 10 laps. These guys have not been able to pass each other. It seems like even through the traffic, Raul has not been able to get the run to make the move.
They're trying, though. It's just, again, a case of it's hard to pass here. It's not a lot of really good pass opportunities on this racetrack. I mean, of course, have the double hairpin kind of through where the old Oak Tree Bend came. But that's coming off of a very one-line section of the racetrack. Turn one, realistically, the best pass opportunity you've got. You can't even make one, though, down the backstretch because of how long of a line the sweeper is. And, oh, boy, MSP cut off by the sister car in the Mercedes. And that could cost them third here down to turn one.
It's going to be tight between the two coming down to the corner, but still 2.5 tenths back for Fisher Motorsport. Not going to be able to make the move. Bernie's going to hang on for now. You're talking about this track doesn't have a lot of overtaking opportunities, especially for the faster cars, I'd say. But their opportunities are, coming through the minefield. You get close to the guy in front of you and hope that he has a tougher time through the minefield of the slower cars, right? I feel like that's kind of your main hope, the only thing you're really wishing for. And right now, your race leader in GTP has 4 GT cars all lined up in front of him as he's going through the S's, trying to find a way through. Oh, no, wait, goes spinning, or sorry, to 88. Further back for the GTPs. He's running the 8th place spot. He has just looped it around. Lost traction on entrance.
He was having a moment trying to get around some of that GTM traffic, and it just didn't go his way. That was Marco Villela that went off there, so he is going to get himself back rolling. No hard, no foul. He kept it out of contact. This battle for second in GT Pro still has gone nowhere as well. I mean, they are still packed up line to stern. They just can't do anything about it.
That's the thing. The 55 was a little bit further ahead of these guys, not really being challenged, and he's slowly fallen into the clutches of the 44 and the 69 further back behind him, and is kind of reignited this battle for position. And like you had mentioned earlier, the 84 is a little bit faster than those guys in the 5th place spot. So I think there's going to be 4 cars convening onto the 2nd place position in GT Pro before long.
Looking like there was a pass for 3rd deeper in the field. Let's take a look at Shreyas Venkatarasu, 3 wide with a whole host of lap traffic, and looking like that yeah, that was just a little bit of a blink out there that went a little bit awry. Thought for a moment we had a pass for 3rd in GTM, but nope, no main line to stern. But that was a close moment coming up to the field, and you know what? In fact, let's look at that one more time from the air. I mean, this is insanity here. Going 3 wide with traffic that's blinking, that takes a new level of guts.
Yeah, I would feel a little uncomfortable if I saw that Mustang blinking out right next to me as I'm passing it while I'm 3 wide. That's not normally a good sign. Been running a lot of Daytona this week. A lot of blinkers 3 wide have been causing a lot of incidents. So I'd be worried about it here on a tight racetrack like VIR.
And North Sim Racing getting around Fisher Motorsports as Stefan Nobes overshot the Oak Tree Bend. So Nobes will drop down to 4th, and North Sim Racing is up onto the podium for GT Pro at the Virginia International Raceway. So a good show for him. Fisher now runs 4th and 5th back-to-back, and they got their sister GTP in the mix. And that car is going to end up off the road. Not an ideal run there for Fisher Motorsports. Some team communication possibly falling on some occupied ears right there.
Tough break for Raul, losing a lot of time to the battle that he was having in that 3rd place position, right? He was trying to take it from Bernie lap after lap. Now he's 5 seconds off the back bumper of Bernie. You're going to have to reel all of that back in to mount another challenge. So a tough break for the number 4 here in the early going. 2 hours and 15 minutes still to go. 25 minutes have elapsed. Still plenty of time left in this thing to get that gap cut back down. And you never know whenever that random yellow could come out as well.
I almost forgot about the random yellows, but yeah, you take a look at the battle for 3rd now in GTM. These guys have been kind of going back and forth for a while. That's Shreyas Venkatarasu for Vulture Motorsports, and then, of course, Will Robertson for Mayor Simsbury Performance as well. And there's still this World Sim Racing BMW. He's been trying to get through these guys for a while, and I think Robertson finally let Marco Pereira go. The problem is the Mustang for Vulture Motorsports isn't eager to let that BMW through. And part of the reason why he's not even obligated to let him through is because they're on the same lap. They're battling for overall on-track position. So that's pretty big there for Venkatarasu. And not to mention, it gives him a very nice buffer back to 4th place in GTM. So he has absolutely no reason to want to let him through.
Well, Michael Kulaga in the LMP2 is crab walking right now. He has had a big moment in about the last sector of the racetrack. I just saw the GTP race leader get by him. He's having a tough time just getting it back to the pits. Yeah, we've seen that once already today. That wall is going to be a trouble spot all night long, I think.
It's going to be the bane of some team's existence. On board with Kulaga here. I think he was prepared to, yeah, he had, I think that was that Tri-State up the inside, and he just carried way too much speed than what he should have. Chris Cadiz off the racetrack for Tri-State Racing as well, and that's on the approach to Oak Tree. Now, was this with help? There's nobody around him, so I'm assuming this would be by himself.
Or he's making a move to the inside.
It was with help.
Oh, I don't know if he overshot the apex or if he got pinched down on the apex. That angle didn't quite tell every bit of the story. Might be able to get a better view here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. That's a tough call to.
He gave him room. I think the LMP2 just tracked out a little bit too wide there, but there was room for him down there.
Yeah, it was a tight scenario. Obviously, you know, the stewards have a little bit different camera angles they can look at. They can really mess with the iRacing camera and get it to figure out exactly what happened whenever they go through and you know, kind of scrutinize that incident if it gets protested. You never know. If Tri-State thinks it's their fault, then they're not going to throw a protest on that. Excuse me. They're not going to throw a protest at that. Second place here. Second place is tight.
And this is all in GT Pro. You saw Race Tech competition nearly collide with one of the GTP runners. And there is now 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, all packed up under a blanket. So 4 cars separated by about a second and a half as they work their way down the back stretch. So far, racing action, though, has been absolutely brilliant today. And this is, I think, going to be a really great race. I mean, there's been, again, minimal incidents, as I say, and then we just had another one. But there's been a lot of good racing as well. Lots of hard-fought side-by-side, and still a lot more yet to come in as well.
Yeah, I don't think that we've had anything ridiculous here tonight so far. This has been a really good race to watch. The lap traffic's been mostly kind to everybody in the 55 or 555, just finding a lazy spin from the 5th place spot in GTM. Tough break, but it's been mostly clean racing so far. Just about contact here between the 2 leaders in GTM. Off in the SS Racing, trying to hold on. Screechy Moose Motorsports, your championship leader, trying to take the spot away.
Screechy Moose Motorsports and Lucas Santos driving to the point, as they so often do. So SMM, the points leader in the Sprint Cup and in the main championship, they are to the race lead. And now they can try to drive away from off the SS Racing, using some of the tow for the Vulture Motorsports Porsche just in front of them.
Got to talk a little bit about Screeching Moose Motorsports. I mean, they've been fantastic this year, right? They won the first 4 races of the season.
1 with an asterisk from a penalty, but 4 races, yes.
Well, yeah, 4 races and then 5 if you count the roar before the 24, and that's why they got such a huge points lead at the beginning of this season. They just stacked it all up at the beginning. The 80 and the 93 have had the most bad luck of anybody I've ever seen in a league series, in a league on iRacing, to be honest with you. And that's allowed Screeching Moose Motorsports to have a pretty simple, straightforward run to the championship. They did so well at the beginning of the year, and then obviously, like I said, the bad luck bug has caught the digital chicane cars so hard that number 5 has really not had a serious challenge for the championship all season. Obviously, challenges for individual race wins, as we see the Ford Mustang off the racetrack, trying to get it back on, get the ship righted. That's the 016. Oh. And then is this Camprigger? That's the leader, the Rising Panda Racing, number 46 for LMP2.
Yeah, the Rising Panda LMP2 going off the racetrack as well. Doesn't lose the lead, still has an 11-second gap. And, well, you can only blame yourself for that one. Just overshot the corner, went off the racetrack, but did a good job to get that thing settled. But you talk about Screeching Moose Motorsports, right? I mean, take a look. Hashtag one at a time. They take all these races week in, week out. They don't focus too much on the season-wide championships. They like to focus on that one race, doing the best they can in that race. And that philosophy has really paid off for them this season.
So I like the philosophy, but I still think it's absolutely impossible to not, be in the middle of this race, see the 80, see the 93 lose both of their front bumper covers in the first couple of laps, and not get a big smile on your face knowing that you've probably got the championship locked up in the sprint and for the main thing. As long as you get a decent race here, right? I'm sure that they're thinking, okay, we don't necessarily even need to win this race. If we finish top 2 and those digital chicane cars stay way back there, the championship's over. We've got this thing locked up. Yeah, you care about it race to race, just winning each individual race. I think that's how you get to the end of the season with a good championship lead, or at least in the championship fight, by taking it 1 race at a time. But once you get to the end, you're absolutely point watching. You're absolutely watching your competitors and seeing how good, how poorly they're doing. And I got to think that they've got a big smile on their face after seeing the digital chicane cars find issues early on.
2 GTPs into pit road. That is Kyle Burney and Patrick Rawle that have both taken it into the lane. And, oh boy, big trouble with one of the GT Pros and one of the GTMs. That's Vinga Taraju off again, and that's also Delta Racing off the road to the BMW. And based on the damage, I have to imagine there's been some serious contact between them.
Holy cow, the Ford was struggling through the grass.
Whoa, whoa! That was in progress already. We'll jump back a little bit further. So, Kinetic Racing Porsche just behind, looking to lap the Mustang. He just turned him. Turned the Mustang, and that Mustang lost control, and nothing the BMW could do.
Yeah, it looked like he squeezed him on the little short chute down to the left-hander and got into the right rear quarter panel. A weird mistake to make down the straightaway. And
again, I want to point out, they did not have a blue flag. This is for overall track position, but man, still, I mean, good grief. That was unnecessary.
He definitely ran him a little narrow. Maybe he's frustrated for being stuck behind and was just trying to get him out of the way a little bit more aggressive, but that's probably not the way to do it.
All right, that'll be one for the stewards after this race. And then, man, I feel bad for Oliveira behind. I mean, he was just minding his own business. He had nothing to do with that. But yeah, that one not the fault of Vinca Taraju at all. That,
yeah, that's more cut and dry than most that I've seen. That one's a little bit easier to call. You got to put that on GT Pro. The GTPs are in pit road though. The race leaders, Fonte, Rutan, Santos, Campbell, all down pit road for the GTPs. Only 35 minutes into this thing. Not a lot of gas in those things.
And it'll be the same story for the LMP2s coming down as well. But, I mean, even still, this is an early stop for these cars. I mean, usually it's the LMP2s that are in first and the GTPs stretch a little longer. But this isn't cut and dry with, you know, pit stops being exactly on the hour. Usually they have to take one shorter pit stop. You wonder if maybe a lot of these guys have opted to take that slightly shorter stop earlier on instead of waiting for later.
I mean, go ahead and get that pit stop out of the way to make sure you have one less pit stop, right? Like if the yellow flag comes out in between now and whenever the other GTP cars come down pit road, you've already gotten your short stint in. So I feel like it's a good strategy to go ahead and get it out of the way, get that pit stop done and dusted.
And
now the yellow flag could still fall at a bad part for you, but I think you're opening yourself up for some good strategy calls through the last 2 hours of this thing, depending on the yellows.
Bruno Carrera hopping out of the DS Racing Esports car, and Joao Pedro Teixeira will jump into the car. So they're going for a driver swap here, less than 40 minutes into this race.
Well, but the GT Pros can make it like 50 minutes, right? What?
I can't believe that. They're trying to get the early stop out of the way. Just like the... Oh, and now around goes Diego Pontes. Contact with Dangler Performance. They keep it out of the wall. Might have to get that car refired. I'm worried, though. Don't go up that way. You see right there, I worry about that back. I was worried about that rear left tire because it looked like it was hiked off the ground a little bit, which would cause problems on trying to get that car spun around. They got it working, though. Pedro Vargas, the next one into the lane.
I get the 911 might be trying to do what some of the faster class cars are doing, but the GT cars can make it so much longer than the LMP2s and GTPs that I'm shocked to see them take that short stop. The 42 going well off the racetrack.
He's trying to lap one of the GT Pro Porsches, and that Porsche wasn't as easy to get out of the way, and he wasn't expecting it.
Raw now up to fourth, Bernie in second, Fonte back into the race lead. So I guess all the GTP cars have already come down pit road, or at least all the competitors up towards the front. I think Rutan has not pitted, so that number 111 still has to come down pit road, I believe.
No, he came down to pit road one lap later than Bernie and the others.
Oh, excuse me. They made a driver change, didn't they?
Yes, they did. It was Christoph Demay in that car before.
Gotcha. So Hack Racing already making a driver change in the early going. Only 35 minutes in. Kind of surprising to see driver changes so early, especially, you know, if you shorten up that first stint. Now the GTPs, I guess it probably wasn't right. They all came down after 35 minutes, so I imagine that's not a short stint for them. But again, for the GT Pro, like we saw from your race leader in that category, it's just a little too early for them, I think. But hey, they're the ones that have been in here all season long. They've been the ones dealing with the strategy, so I'm not going to harp on it too bad. They could surprise me.
Well, I think for the driver changes, it does make a little bit of sense, right? Because remember, you do have those minimum drive time requirements that you must hit, and if you don't, you're going to be in really big trouble after the race. You could face some major penalties, including disqualification, right? So it's not a bad idea to go for those driver swaps now, get the minimum drive time. At least you're more flexible to work with pit strategies if a safety car comes out later on. And Ronald Gross taking the Real Pixel Motorsports Lamborghini for some lawn mowing excursions. Did Lamborghini ever make lawn mowers? I feel like I remember seeing one before. Right?
Oh God, now I have to look that up. What?
I feel like I remember it. I might be remembering completely wrong though, but it's one of those like fever dreams where you could have swore you've heard of something before, but
I have a Bugatti vape sitting in my lap right now.
That's not
close?
The same thing. No.
Close. Space. It's shaped like a spaceship. The Tonino Lamborghini lawnmower.
All right, they did make lawnmowers. All right, cool. I'm not crazy.
What?
Oh, Firestorm Motorsports. Roy Vermeer going off the road, and that is at the end. That's a weird spot. to go off the racetrack. Unless you do that, then it's a little bit more believable. But tell you what, that was some good driving from both cars there. That could have been a really nasty incident. And now a good chunk of GT Pro traffic is into pit road.
I'm trying to figure out how much I got to spend for a Lamborghini lawnmower.
A lot. It's just for the branding alone. Get a John Deere. It's way more worth your time. So Velocity stays in the car. Nobe stays in the car. Brad Crouch hopping into the car for RPM Racing. Jeremy Littleton is into the car for Vulture Motorsports. Screeching Moose Motorsports came down to the lane as well, and they're going to keep Lucas Santos in the car. Splash and go, and they are off and away with the number 5. Now, Nicholas Goen brings the LMP2 leading P217 into the pits.
So we're seeing the LMP2s starting to come down pit road. I finally found the information I was looking for. Lamborghini lawnmowers are going to put you out $250. Not too bad.
Really?
Not terrible.
Oh,
not terrible.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that it's that cheap. Are we talking the real thing, or are we talking a model? Because those are very different.
Look, this, you know, I haven't done the most intensive research ever, but I clicked the first link whenever I saw Lamborghini lawnmower cost, and it said, well, it was eBay, right? Somebody selling it on eBay, $250.
Oh, that's
Matthew
why.
Houghton. Matthew Houghton in Hack Racing has just had a huge moment. I cannot believe he's not destroyed his car. Holy crap, that thing was sideways, going through the dirt. Somehow hangs on to it. He's going to lose a ton of time, but he should have lost that race car completely. Whew. Oh my, what a moment. He turned into a Lamborghini lawnmower, just about.
Yeah, right on board with Rutten here. Approaching the P217 in the Porsche GT Pro. Yikesy. And right there. That is a great save. You're right, that should have been a lot worse than it was. That was a phenomenal job to save that car.
I don't know how in the world he hung on to that, especially in the GTP, going that fast through that section of the racetrack. Just hitting the curb weird, being side by side with a Porsche. I mean, it's a tough break, and like I said, the S's were going to be difficult this entire time getting through the slower traffic, but he just hovered over the curb, hit the flat underbody against that elevated curve coming over it. Left side tires in the grass, and unfortunately it just kicked him sideways. Like we were talking about, though, ridiculous save. He did turn into a lawnmower there, though. Cadillac lawnmowers gonna have to be coming out here pretty soon.
Battle is on side by side for 4th in GT Pro, and Husum takes the spot over from Efficient Motorsports. So an unsuccessful attack for the 4th place spot in your GT Pro category. Drivers like Aiden Campbell drivers like Aiden Campbell still have yet to come down to pit road, but a very split call on the overall pit times throughout the course of this stint so far. Not a lot of drivers agreeing on how long to be in pit road for. I see some stops as low as 28, 22 seconds in the GT fields, then up to as high as 37 to 40 seconds for some of the GTP runners. So it's a very split call all the way throughout.
So a few of those GT pros still staying on the racetrack, Campbell being one of them, 6 seconds in front of
Wolf Motorsports in second is still out on the racetrack as well. They have not come down to pit road either. It's not been the debut that Limprecht or the rest of that team was hoping to have. I mean, that car is already looking like it has seen better days. But there's always next month for the Miami Sunrise 6 Hour at Homestead Miami Speedway. That's going to be a good race. I mean, I have. The only time I've ever seen the Homestead Miami Speedway's Roval configurations used has been in the Beer League. I'm really excited to see a multi-class race there, like a proper multi-class race.
Oh, absolutely. I can't wait either. I think it's going to be fantastic. Limerick finally coming down pit road in a GT-AM, but I got to talk about, you were talking about Limerick with the Ford Mustang having a not quite the best day that they were wanting coming in here this week, and I agree. Going into VIR with only 3 races left in the season, I don't know if I would have picked the Mustang. I don't think that the change of direction, especially through the fast S's, was quite up to pace with the rest of the class, if I had to bet. And I think I might just be hurting a couple of the Mustang runners here today. A little unfortunate, but to your point, going to Homestead next week, it's a lot more point-and-shoot corners. I would say, right? There's not a lot of swift change of direction left to right, maybe a little bit in the first sector. So I think that might be a better a better car for the racetrack next week. Or next time that we go racing, excuse me.
counter, and if somebody knows this, they can correct if I'm totally wrong, but I believe they had to make that choice for this race. You weren't allowed to make that adjustment for one race later down the line. You had to make it for this race, and you weren't allowed to change it then throughout the rest of the season because they didn't want to go through rapid-fire car swaps for a bunch of different teams. So it had to be, oh boy, as Dangler off again. But yeah, it had to be this week, which is why we see some of these guys committed to the Mustang and others opting, probably not worth it. Because remember, Road Atlanta, not a very point-and-shoot racetrack either. Very flowy. There's maybe 2 corners in there that are like that, but otherwise, yeah, I have to agree. I think Miami could play strong to the Mustang, but otherwise, we'll see. Mark Romaninski and Dangler Performance, they're currently up 9 spots where they started today overall. And a bunch of those are, of course, on drivers from their own class, which, hey, that's it's good for them. It looks like they're finally having themselves a decent day. I know right now they're probably most known, at least in our eyes, for going pole vaulting over a group of cars at the Watkins Glen 6 hours of the Glen. And yeah, it was a ride that they took, but they've been putting down some halfway decent performances as well throughout the season, and there's still some potential for them to become a top 5 runner by season's end.
Yeah, unfortunately, their pole vaulting world record that they set at Watkins Glen got eclipsed at the Olympics in the summer.
So they went pretty far with that leap too.
They set both, but they lost the pole vaulting record during the Olympics in the summer. I think they've held on to the long jumping record for now, so I think we're still a-okay on that one. But yeah, that was a heck of a wreck at the Glen up the S's. Luckily, no walls here, just a lot of green, right? A lot of mean green on the outside that can still ruin your race, especially if you take it wrong. You could easily get sideways and completely lose it and slide all the way out to one of these walls that are typically very far away from the racing surface. But there's a couple areas where the wall does encroach in. We saw it through the middle of Sector 2 a couple times. A few of the LMP2s have had huge issues flying into one of the tire barriers on the inside of one of the slower S's sections of the racetrack. I feel like there's like 3 or 4 S's here at VIR.
Oh, let's see. We are just shy of an hour through this race now, and still with a lot of drivers that have yet to see how the races are going to work out with the strategy. Let's take a quick moment here to thank, of course, Twin Bush USA for bringing you all of the races for the VSCA Sports Car Championship. Your expert for automotive workshop equipment, located north of Las Vegas, Nevada. You can visit them today or find them online at twinbush.com. Twin Bush, quality that convinces. They've been, of course, sponsoring the lead throughout the entirety of this season, and we are still thankful for their support. Racing still underway. No yellow flags yet. We'll return in a moment on Green Flight TV.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Still green flag racing at Virginia International Raceway for the Virginia Sports Car Grand Prix for the VSA Sports Car Championship. If you're just joining us, my name is Ola Rempel alongside Austin Edstrom. This is round 8 of the VSA Sports Car Championship and the final round of the Sprint Cup. So the battle for third is still heating on up for GT Pro, and it is looking to be as tight as ever. But it's not the only one. Fourth now in your GTP field is also just as tight.
Yeah, Roughton and Campbell super close here. We saw Roughton make a huge save not too long ago for Hack Racing through the same section of the racetrack. Now they're under fire from Campbell in that number 1 right behind, coming up to the long back straightaway. Can Campbell use the draft to make a move coming down into the the corner that we've seen a ton of issues into with that tire barrier on the inside? Got to make sure both these guys get through the lap traffic quickly and safely. Coming up to the treacherous corner itself, it looks like they're all single file coming into it, though. They're going to be okay. Going to dodge that tire barrier, stay on the racetrack. Hack Racing going to keep that position for now.
So tracking current championship battles, we were talking about Kyle Burney and Mayor Sims' performance as a whole. They need to realistically finish on the podium, and they're going to be good to go for the Sprint Cup Series championship, and they've got second place pretty locked down, 8 seconds ahead of Patrick Rawle. They are just hoping now that they don't get a safety car or they don't encounter troubles, and they'll be all smooth sailing. For Going Racing, they really listen to finish in the top 6, so basically don't crash. They are right now still running in the number 2 spots, and they're all nice and sorted. The same story for Fisher Motorsports and Screech Moose Motorsports. Just looking to finish within the top 5 or on the podium, and they should be good. And so far, both drivers meeting those goals, so I see no reason why we won't be seeing our current points leaders for the Sprint Cup, taking those championships by the end of this race, barring any incidents.
Well, that's the big thing, barring any incidents. You never know how the last hour and 45 minutes are going to go. The last 55 has been, mostly clean. It's been mostly nice, but there have been a couple of issues with faster cars getting through the slower cars, and that's going to be consistent all night long. There's going to continue to be moments. It's just how big is that moment going to be? Is it going to ruin your race, or is it going to maybe drop you a couple seconds or drop you a couple spots? It's all about damage mitigation whenever it comes to these style of races where you're getting through the different classes. So looking at Fonte up there in the 51, Bernie obviously in the points battle. Fonte, your race leader's off the racetrack into turn 1. I was just talking about mistakes. He has completely overshot his braking zone. That's going to cost him a chunk of time.
Danny Fonte going off the road right behind the 992, and he just locked up that right front and went off the racetrack. Otherwise, no harm, no foul. And now side by side for third. Fisher Motorsports challenging for the podium. Couldn't quite get the job done. The Audi stays in front. But there has been a pass to the 4th place spot as HAC and Grizzly Motorsports going at it right now through turn 1.
Yeah, Grizzly tried to make it work around the outside, down into 1.
It's good effort.
Looked like they had the move done. Maybe a little bit of lockup there through the center of the corner, or entry center, I should say, and they give the position back. Looking here, is this the 88 and the GTP coming through the double right? Oh, just getting a little bit too wide, dipping wheels off into the grass, off the curb, and spinning that thing around. Second time we've seen the 88 go around tonight.
It's an easy mistake to make, especially at that corner in particular. I can't count the number of times I've done that myself. So that's it's easy to make, and everybody makes that mistake sooner or later. I want to talk about Rising Panda Race for a moment. We haven't touched too much on the LMP field, 2 field today ever since they broke away, but they took the points lead overall from Going Racing, and for the first time all season long after round number 7 at Road America, Going Racing has fallen to an opposing team. They've been in the points lead all season long, but Rising Panda Racing really established themselves as a serious threat for the title. It's right now effectively a heads-up race between the 18 and the 46, and right now, I want to point out, Rising Panda up by 6 seconds over Going, who's nowhere to be found.
And that's a big difference between the two, right? We're paying a lot of attention to the points battle in the LMP2 field for the season-long championship. The sprint race is relatively wrapped up. It's got the furthest distance.
Whoa, look out!
Hack Racing way off the racetrack, sliding into the tire barrier, loses the front end. This time, Roughton's not going to drive away from it.
Holy cow, a huge crash coming down to turn number 1, launched that car into the air, and he got turned by Grizzly Motorsports, it looked like.
Oh my word. Just coming down into turn 1. This is the lap before, right? Yeah, this is the lap before, making the move back. These guys have been going at it lap after lap. The last time around, Hack Racing had been able to hold on to the position and keep it away from Grizzly. This time through turn 1 and 2, not so lucky. Oh, and well,
we
he
just
gets
got
a little lucky because the yellow flag just came out.
Yeah, safety car just was deployed on the racetrack. But we'll back this up again, and we'll try to take a better look at this mess coming down to turn number 1. That was like nose to tail in contact there.
Yeah, he just got hit. I mean,
back that up one more time. Get a ride aboard with Grizzly Motorsports. He was slowing up for the Corvette in front, and I don't think Grizzly Motorsports was expecting it.
I'd agree. You still got to put it on the car behind in that
goodness.
situation. Oh, that's tough. I mean, like you said, Grizzly's not trying to do anything, egregious there. They're not even trying to make a move. They're trying to fall in line. Tyler Campbell's not trying.
The track.
He is not trying to dump the 4th place runner there, Hack Racing. It's just, you slow up for the slow car in front to make the corner, and unfortunately, Tyler just couldn't react in time.
It's a wild ride, and want to get a look on board with the car that was directly in front of him if we could. That's going to be a wild view. This is on board with Brad Crouch. All of a sudden, that's not what you expect to see out of the windshield. I think, tell you what, that was some great heads-up awareness, though. These drivers, of course, remember, they are required to have human spotters, and I can guarantee you his spotter is the one that helped him get through that unscathed.
To be fair, that Hack Racing car got shucked so far to the inside. I don't know if it even mattered whether you had the spotter or not. He got turned so deep into the corner and just slid right through the apex before they could even get there. I mean, I'm sure the spotter was screaming at him. I'm definitely not gonna discredit that.
Yeah,
but
just
man,
go
deep.
Go deep into the corner. Go deep. Don't turn in.
He just got sent so far. I don't know if you were gonna hit him.
Demai did take the tow to pit road. He did not stay out there to try and come back. I'm not sure if I agree with that. I mean, the engine wasn't broken. I'm sure he would have had some wheel damage, but the car was drivable. I don't know why you wouldn't try to drive it out of that. So you could have lucked out with the caution, and now you're probably going to go down a lap because of that.
In normal circumstances, I disagree with you, right? Because you think it's going to stay green by the time that you get back around to pit road. So you think you're losing 4 or 5 minutes on the racetrack because of how slow you're going to be after that damage. And reckon in turn 1, you've got the least amount of tow basically possible on the whole course, right? You're going to get towed to the pit road relatively quickly, so you're thinking, okay, tow is probably faster than waddling this thing all the way around the racetrack. The problem was he towed, and then 5 seconds later, the yellow flag flew. If the yellow had flown while he was wrecking, I guarantee you he would have limped it back to the pits himself.
It's just unfortunate timing, really.
Yeah.
Well, we got the field stacked up behind the safety car. Let's kind of break down, well, we'll wait to see if they open pit. I don't think they're going to open pit road this time, but we'll wait to see if they do. And if they don't, they will take a run down through your field. But my goodness, big developments. Just as we were coming back an hour deep into this race, we get our first safety car period of the day.
Comes about an hour into the race too, just about right at that hour mark. We're about to hit it.
Yeah.
It's been a mostly, and I know we just saw somebody get turned down into turn 1, but it's been a mostly clean race so far, right? Like a lot of guys have been taking care of each other, not forcing the issue too much. There have been a couple moments here or there, but you're going to get that in multi-class racing. That one down to turn 1 again. It's a product of multi-class racing, right? The 111's not going to slow up a little bit early into that braking zone if they don't see that slow GT car in front of them, and then Grizzly would never even have the opportunity to run in the back of them. So it's just this the style of racing tends to have those type of moments. Unfortunately, there for Hack Racing, their night's going to be done relatively early through no faults of their own, but I imagine it won't be the last time we see something similar to that tonight.
Let's take a rundown throughout your entire field so far. We'll, of course, look to kick it off first and foremost with your GTP field. Right now, Danny Fonte leads the way for World of Sim Racing Team. Mayor Sims Performance is down in the number 2 spot, and that puts Fisher Motorsports up onto the podium. Right now, MSP leading the way in the championship, and nothing is stopping them from taking that championship right now. Tyler Campbell takes home the 4th place for Grizzly Motorsports right now. DS Racing Esports, one of 2 entries, is in 5th, round out the top 5. The first Acura is back in 6th for Pedro Vargas, and then of course DS Racing Esports team just made it out of the pits before they went a lap down. They are sitting in 7th, and unfortunately, Demai is down in 8th after having such a strong run early on. Bravostow Shatton only made 4.5 laps before they were forced to pit for internet problems, and that takes you through your LMP2 field.
Going to the LMP2 cars, Rising Panda Racing currently leading the way with Michael Loeffler behind the wheel. Goen Racing in 2nd with Nicholas Goen currently behind the wheel. Rusty Spatulas Racing Visca in 3rd place. That's Jan Zalacious. Tri-State Racing's number 321. We've seen some issues with Tri-State Racing so far today, but Chris Cadiz is up in the 4th place position currently. Scours GT in the 5th place position. That's Rainda Bower, excuse me. Vital Adamczyk in 6th for Fisher Motorsports. Vision 1 Motorsports in 7th. And then, unfortunately, a couple incidents have taken out the Tri-State Racing number 123 out of contention. They're still out on the racetrack, back there in 8th, but they're 10 laps down versus most of the other LMP2 fields 1. GSE Esports Racing Visca LMP also 10 laps down right behind them. And then finally, Vulture Motorsports are way off. They are out of the race, 16 laps down.
That brings us down to GT Pro, where Teixeira for GS Racing Esports team currently leads the way. Michelle Velazzi for North Sim Racing is in the number 2 spot. Race Tech Competition, the Audi is up in the number 3 spot. Points leader, Fisher Motorsports with Stefanos behind the wheel, runs in 4th. They realistically need a top 5 finish, but if they can finish on the podium, even better. They currently sit 4th place. RPM Racing is down in the number 5 spot with Brad Crouch. Further behind them is Jeremy Littleton for Vulture Motorsports. Then you got World of Sim Racing team back in 7th behind your GTM leader. Behind GTM 2nd place is Neil Middleton for Torrent Creek Racing, and then Vincent Libier behind 3rd in GTM for Kinetic Racing. And then, of course, you got Nicholas Soul for Fisher Motorsports down the field. He is going to working his way back up and around to catch up to the tail of the facing line. And then Delta Racing down and out of racing action tonight.
Then going down to the GT and Screeching Moose Motorsports championship leader in the sprint and in the main championship, heading up the GT AM field so far tonight. Off in the SS Racing, number 83 in 2nd. MSP's number 34 is in the 3rd place position with Will Robertson behind the wheel currently. The Vulture Motorsports Plus in 4th with Steven Martinez. Real Pixar Motorsport in 5th with Ronald Gross. And then Photosec by WMS with Christopher Limprecht in the 6th place position. 7th place is going to be Dangler Performance. 8th place. Unbelievable how this has been so far for Digital Chicane this season. Unbelievable bad luck. Both of them struck with the bad luck bug early tonight. One of them running 8th, one of them running 10th. Doggone Web DS Racing splitting them in 9th currently. Firestorm Motorsports running in 11th with another Vulture Motorsports entry rounding out the GTM field.
And as you say that, Digital Chicane just got bumped down to 9th and 10th, while Calvo got held up at the edge of pit road, and that allowed for DS Racing to overtake them and put themselves up into the number 8 spot. But that takes you through your field so far for the VSCA Sports Car Championship for the race at the Virginia International Raceway. And they call it the America's Motorsports Playground, and you can really see why. There's a lot of really fun corners at a place like this. I feel like for a lot of people, it's a very love-hate relationship with this track. Quite a few people either love to drive around this place and you adore the challenge, or you're like me and you despise driving it because you can never find the right line anyway. But it's a lot like the Nürburgring, right? It's really difficult to master, but regardless if you master it or not, you'll just know when you've hit that perfect line.
Yeah, I've never taken a car out on this racetrack before on iRacing, but just watching these guys rip it around, especially in the faster cars, it looks like one of the most treacherous, like most difficult racetracks on the surface. I mean, so narrow, the racing groove, and then even if you're not on the racing groove, the racetrack is unbelievably narrow in itself as well, too, right? You don't have much runoff room, if any, out of any of these corners, just grass surrounding both sides. You come into a section like this, and you got the guardrails on the inside and on the outside, providing a challenge in case something does go awry. And it leads itself to some crazy racing. Absolutely love it. And I am getting the notice that the pit entry is opening at the end of this lap for all cars.
All right, so that means that a majority of the field has caught the tail end of the pacing line. You can see so far the 112 and the 111, the only drivers that have not. And those cars, Matthew Rutan still in the pits, and then you've got the, sorry, that's the 111 that's still in the pits, and Rusty Spatula is making his way out onto the racetrack. I have just gotten a light up of notices of cars crashing. I'm not sure if that is from this, though, or a stack up, but there's like 20 of them that just flashed up all at the same time. So has something just happened, or is this just one of those stack ups that we're used to seeing under the safety car? Careful! Coming to a full stop, and looking like that is all just stack ups under caution.
Oh.
Plus a gopher that's trying to tear up the racetrack down there.
That was a little, I'd be a little nervous coming to a full stop, seeing somebody blinking like that and tire rubber getting just thrown up in my face. But no harm, no foul. We've seen a couple issues under yellow. I mean, 40 cars, all Constantinian on top of each other on a very, very tight racetrack like this. I mean, you kind of feel like you're out on the interstate for a moment. With that huge checkup, but we see the GTP cars coming in, taking their second pit stop. They were at the end of their fuel window anyway. They were going to have to come down.
So most of the cars coming down and into pit road. So far, all of the GTP field that was on the lead lap, and a majority of the GT field is in as well. A lot of the LMB2s are at the tail end, but I would be surprised if we didn't see a lot of them coming down to pit road as well. And sure enough, here they come. So only about 15 or so cars staying out on the racetrack, and quite a few driver changes going on as well. Nicholas Pedersen into the car for MSP. Thomas Barton into the car for Fisher Motorsports. Nelson Clemente is in. Francisco Santos Pereira is in. David Schmidt's in. Nicholas Goins, stays in the car. Looking like, for the most part, unchanged for your LMP2 field, but in your GT Pro field, other drivers are hopping into the race cars. I know Screech Moose Motorsports went for a driver change. There's quite a few that have put some new drivers in the car, especially, though, in your GTP field, where pretty much everybody is now fresh into the race car.
Not surprising at all to see a lot of driver changes at the yellow at about the halfway mark of this race, right? You know that we're going to be going green. Around that halfway mark, you might as well get your driver change done, put your fastest guy in the car. Now, I imagine some people put their fastest guy in the car on the initial start. I think it'd probably be smarter to do it at the end of these sprint races, just in case that yellow flag does fly. It bunches up the field, so any advantage that, you know, if you had put your fastest driver in the car at the beginning, any advantage that he might have picked up is completely squandered off of this caution period. So coming in now, putting in another driver, especially if you did it right and put your fastest guy in for this stint, I think it lines you up really, really nicely. But we're gonna have to wait and see who is the fastest, right? Who is the best on these teams at VIR? Are we gonna see a shakeup because of this pit stop?
At the end of all of this, Jan Zalatius for Rusty Spatula's Racing, currently the overall race leader in all of this. Middle of the pack, yes, but the overall race leader. That means pretty much everybody in front, I think, could get waved around. Now, there is, of course, still the second round of wave-bys to be conducted. But remember, it's not, whoever starts this race isn't just the overall race leader. It's the first class leader. Right now, that does fall to Zalatius. So an interesting run for quite a few cars, and we are slowing it up again towards the back of the field. You know, all these checkups under caution, this is something that was addressed pretty heavily. There's been quite a few incidents regarding stack-ups under caution flags and drivers having the misfortune of being collected in incidents. And a lot of the drivers, they were very much warned, hey, you got to keep an eye on this. We require human spotters for pretty much exactly that reason. Use them. They need to be telling you where this stuff is. And they've cleaned it up a lot today. We had that big stack up earlier under the caution flag. It's normal. It happens for multi-class racing, especially when you get 40-plus cars on the racetrack. Nothing wrong with that, but everybody kept it out of each other, which, of course, for these guys, even better.
Well, and a big reason for that, I'm seeing it throughout most of the course. There's a lot of bigger gaps between cars under this caution period than what I've seen in the past this season for Visca, right? They've clearly given a talking to a few of these guys and just kind of laid the law down and and I think it's worked, right? You said we had that big stack up, but nobody hit each other, right? Nobody made any contact. Nobody had an issue. It's just gonna happen, right? Those stack ups are gonna happen in this type of racing under the caution periods. Just give yourself enough room to take evasive action if you need to. And so far, I think that the message has hit home.
The other thing that was brought up today was the aggression in getting around lapped cars. Again, it's part of racing, but drivers were warned, use a little bit of caution when getting around lapped traffic. It's a difficult track to lap cars at. They wanted to try to cut down on those incidents as well. And so far, again, they've been doing a good job on cutting down on those incidents so far this race. We are just 8 minutes shy of the halfway point. Austin, you got any word if the safety car's in this lap, or we're keeping it out for 1 or 2 more yet?
I don't have a word. I have not heard anything. I'm not seeing anything in the driver chat regarding that. I did just see people got waved around last time by, so I think those wave rounds are finishing up, or probably about halfway through the wave process. So if I had to bet, we probably got 1 more caution lap. I still have not seen anything.
Well, for now, this field's still working itself around. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 GTMs that got waved around and 2 LMP2s that got waved around. The 992 is a class leader, so I think everybody's going to be lining up behind the 992 here for this impending restart, and it totally won't cause any turn 1 shenanigans, having a majority of the GTP and LMP2 fields behind a majority of the GT Pro and M fields. That hasn't historically gone well whenever we've seen it a few times before. They've had its moments, but I think we can expect to see us put some fireworks here.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've come up on that halfway point, right? So most of the race is done. And I think that that's going to lead itself to a lot of aggression, especially because we've got the GTPs and the LMP2s coming through these the GT Pros and the GTMs that have found themselves up towards the front of the field. I mean, I'm trying to look back to actually find our GTP class leader to see how far back he is.
I think we just got the safety car in this lap. We're about to go racing.
The GTP leader's 10 to 15 cars off of the pace car. I believe it's about 10 cars. So he's going to have some traffic to work through here. And the MSP is only MSP number 3 is only 2 cars behind him. And Fisher Motorsport is right behind the MSP number 3 for the GTPs. So you really got to watch World of Sim Racing team here. Alvaro Martinez now driving for World of Sim Racing team. They've been leading the way in the GTP category. I think that this restart, he's just gotten into the car, might be a little nervy with how fast these things are, and he's immediately put into lap traffic. Got to watch out for that.
So the field going to work through the final sector, and it will be in the hands of Joao Pedro Teixeira to work his way around and put himself into the lead of this race. He did not pit under this safety car period, and neither did anybody else in the top 4 GT Pro or the GTM race leader, the LMP2 race leader. Also did not come down to pit. So quite a few drivers at the front of some classes now going to be off cycle. Pace car is into pit road, waiting for the tire bundles. That marks the start of the restart zone. Holding the field a little bit longer, not looking to, there he goes, now he's off and away. We are racing once again at Virginia International Raceway.
Down the straightaway, I'm watching Alvaro Martinez. He's already passed 4 cars just down the straightaway. That's how quick that thing is in a straight line. Can the MSP number 3 keep tabs on him? Can he get through the field just as well as Alvaro up front through the slower GT traffic? Alvaro trying to make it work. He's gotten through about 5 of them, 5 more to go for the GTP leader.
We're tracking deeper in this field as well, watching a lot of the prototypes trying to scythe their way through this mess, and they're doing a good job of it so far. I feel like a lot of them are kind of opening one lane on the left side of the racetrack, and they're just using that, following each other through on this one. But so far, a very clean start to this race, as DS Racing about to be overtaken and lapped by the overall race leader.
Martinez coming through on the inside through the S's. He's done a good job keeping those clean so far. Only 3 more cars in front of him that he's got to overtake before he's just got clean track and he can lay the best lap times down possible. Oh, a little bit of contact between a prototype and one of the AM cars, the Mustang going off to 515, just got shucked wide. That's the leader for the GT AM class, just getting moved out of the last corner. Or sorry, out of the last corner before the back straightaway.
Battle's on for third, battle on for second as well. Look at the fight for second place. The only 2, Rise Panda Racing getting back around. Tri-State Racing as they lead the backstretch. Good show there from Michael Loeffler as he's able to break clear of Chris Cadiz. So he's going to look to work his way back around to the front straightaway. Tri-State Racing in a bit of trouble, and that allows Goen to get back up to the podium. And now the GTM leader off the road again, and this could cost him the lead of this race as he falls back out of the final corner.
Oh, it's absolutely going to Lucas Santos. There he is going down the inside. Oh, no. That's the 8th place runner in the GT Pro, the 151, going off the racetrack. That's Urella. Not quite sure what happened, but off this restart. A little bit of chaos. Oh, no. Rising Panda.
Rising Panda way off and into the weeds. He's able to get it back sorted, but not without damage. That right front bruised up a little bit now. So now we're going to see what a lot of these drivers are made of.
That was not Rising Panda. My mistake. My mistake. I'm getting a look through.
Taking a look at Limprek here, and he just went off the racetrack by himself, entering the final corner. And then this is what happened to Garrido to give him all that damage for World of Sim Racing's BMW. Contact, he got pinched in a little bit by the Vision Motorsports Porsche.
It was not Rising Panda. It was Grizzly Motorsports in the GTP. He was running in 4th. The blue threw me off, kind of similar with the Rising Panda car. Obviously GTP versus LMP2, but it was David Schmidt in the Grizzly Motorsports #1. They've been having a good night. That's a tough break. It's shifted out of the top 5 for the GTP. Apologies for the call there. Try to get Grizzly more in tune in my mind going forward, but he's still fighting a lot of issues throughout the field on the restart.
But for the most part, we keep it clean. I mean, 2 cars going off the road and only 1 with contact. That's not bad for a restart when you got most of your prototypes behind most of your GT runners. That's, I think, one of the most civilized restarts we've seen all season long. So big props to these guys for that as you track the battle for 4th place in your LMP2 field. Scours S is racing and Chris Cadiz for Tri-State Racing going at it further behind. Battle is on for 6th, side by side. Vision Motorsports trying to keep Vision 1 behind, but Damian Benke trying to go around the long way of Rico Kohlmeyer. Can't make it happen. Kohlmeyer hangs on, but they've now caught the race tech competition outing.
Yeah, and in a pretty perilous position of the racetrack going down at the S is very tough to get through. Looking at the battle for 2nd, I believe, in the GTAM. As we come through the 1st sector, right behind Lucas Santos for Screeching Moose. We got off in the S's Racing and the MSP number 34, both trying to run down the Screeching Moose Motorsports number 5. The top 3, top 4 in GTM, all under a blanket from each other, nose to tail.
So far, a good battle here in GTM, but we got a bigger one in GTP. There goes Thomas Martin getting around. Rusty Spatula's racing for the number 3 spot, and right behind Martin, you've got Nicholas Pedersen fresh into the car from Mayor Simpson Performance. Pedersen has come through for this team time after time again. He's looking to do all the work here on getting around what is that right now, overall 3rd place, to fight his way up to 3rd in class. 2nd in class, sorry.
Peterson just working his way through. Trying anything you can, right? In the GTPs, I just feel like it's so hard to make a pass. I feel like you've got to work it corner after corner after corner after corner, maybe even lap after lap. With how fast these things move, it is just about impossible to find any bit of overlap unless the car in front makes a mistake. Now, luckily for the trailing car here at Virginia, it's a pretty difficult racetrack, right? There's going to be plenty of mistakes, but if the guy in front of you ain't making any, you're not getting by.
And then even further behind, we got another battle picking up. This is a 4-way scrap for 7th. Dang Performance, DS Racing, and then both digital chicane cars under a blanket. So we got a Mercedes and then a trio of Ferraris trying to attack trying to attack Wolfgang Wildenauer. Sorry, trying to attack Theo Taylor right now for Dynamo Performance. Wolfgang Wildenauer in Real Pix Motorsports up the road. There goes Nuno Barbosa, to the inside. And Barbosa takes that spot away. A good spot for him. How about Paolo Calvo getting around Theo Taylor as well? All of a sudden, Dangler Performance is dropping like a stone.
Well, the digital chicane cars finally got to come down pit road and make sure they got all the damage fixed and stay on the lead lap with the rest of the pack. So maybe the 80 and the 93 can start making some moves and right the wrongs that happened to them at the beginning of this thing. Currently running at 8th and 10th. So they haven't made a lot of progress so far, but still an hour 20 minutes to go, and they've got clean race cars. So we've seen them do it before, have issues and come back. So hopefully for these guys they can do it again.
So Taylor and Swan still looking to go at it nose to tail. They are not giving each other much room to breathe right now. And it's the same story up the road for Brad Crouch, trying to stay in front of a charging Lucas Santos for Screechy Moose Motorsports. SMM just a little ways behind, still showing no signs of yielding his race lead back to Joseph Akopian for Often the SS Racing. Tell you what, though, this has got to be one of Often the SS Racing's best races so far of the year. They started on pole, they dropped back to third, but they have never slipped back to third, fourth place so far tonight. They've been having a great outing in GTM.
Yeah, it's been a great night so far for that second place runner in the 83. Under pressure currently from Robertson for that second place position, but ultimately running a very clean race so far, and they're keeping themselves within tabs of the race leader in GTM, right? That's all you can hope for until you get down to the end of this thing. Give yourself an opportunity to be there at the end, and that's what Often the SS Racing has done so far.
And then all the while, you've still got these battles within the prototypes trying to get themselves sorted. This is a two-way scrap for 6th in GTP, sandwiched between Rain DeBoer and Chris Cadiz in LMP2. So a lot of drivers still struggling to make up time work. And oh boy, here we go, double file through the S's. I told you it can happen. And they're going to try to do that this time around. Wolfgang Wildenauer gets through, and Taylor going to drop back. Ethan Swan makes up a place. That got a little bit hairy coming off and in towards that S's.
Well, it can happen in the GT cars, right? The GT Pros and the GTMs, they're slow enough that I feel like you can get through there A-okay. The GTPs, I'm nervous whenever I see those cars go through there side by side, or even the LMP2s, but we're seeing it right here, honestly. The 88 getting around the outside. That was a tough move there from Garrido, getting it done on Schmidt.
Able to get it done, though. Let's take a look at what happened up the road. This is what led to that moment within the S's where we saw Dang Performance losing a couple more spots, as well as that Rico Coltmeyer has just fallen to Damia Benke as well, and Rain DeBoer made a pass up as well. So we'll take a look at both of those in just a moment. But there you see Wolfgang Wildenauer losing a spot to one of the DS Racing Esports drivers, and there goes Digital Chicane to get through as well. So a lot of this racetrack for these guys, momentum-based. When you lose that momentum coming into the S's, it just kills your run.
Losing a bit of time, having to slide it off the racetrack like that. A little bit of a tough break, but most of the incidents that we've seen tonight have not been race enders, right? We've seen a couple of those down into the tire barriers at the end of the back straightaway, but most incidents tonight have been lazy spins or spinning way off the racetrack but into the grass to where you can save it and not have too much damage. So a lot of time loss from incidents tonight, but not a lot of destroyed race cars.
And that second incident that you saw there, that was the pass for 4th place in LMP2. That was Tri-State Racing getting around Scour's SS Racing as well. So a lot of battles still picking up all over the racetrack, and among those is Thomas Barton for Fisher Motorsports trying to hang on for second against the 3rd place runner Nicholas Pedersen. And right now, I'll tell you what, Nicholas has been doing a good job of keeping tabs with Martin, considering he only hopped into that car for this last stage. You can tell he has just gotten up to grips with this racetrack and how it's been running so far tonight, and he is in his element right now.
Yeah, he's doing a good job up there in the 2nd place position currently for the GTPs. Hanging on. Peterson all over the back bumper. as they come down to the back straightaway. A lot of lap traffic in front of them. How much of it can they clear coming down the backstretch before they get down to that treacherous corner? Might be 3 wide with a couple of them. Late block thrown here from Martin, just trying to keep Peterson behind him as we come down to the fast left-hander. Peterson's just going to have to fall in behind, not willing to risk it through that section of the racetrack. They were able to get through a good chunk of the GT traffic. Still a couple of them, though, in front of them through this slower section of the racetrack. This is where it can really hurt the GTP cars. It's going to stretch out that gap to the race lead as he tries to go to the outside of one of the digital chicane GTAMs. Both of them are going to cycle through on the front straightaway, but they did lose a little bit of time to your race leader, who has gotten through the lap traffic way better.
Second, third, and fourth still under a blanket in GTP and showing no signs of yielding at all right now. This is going to be, I think, the big heads-up moment that we're going to be seeing throughout the entire field. You can see this pack. If there's ever going to be a big incident, it's probably going to come either from this one or it's going to come in the battle for the lead in GTM.
These guys just have not separated, right? It was about a 4-car battle. Limerick has kind of taken himself out of the main contention.
Oh,
in the
here
top
we go. They thought about it.
God bless. Thank God they didn't, because it would not have ended good. I can tell you that 100% of the time. Now, Peterson has fallen way off the back bumper of Martin in this last lap, so he's had a whole lot rougher of a time getting through this lap traffic, and it's dropped him into the clutches of 4th and 5th. Clemente and Santos right on his back bumper as we come down to the back straightaway. And here it is, NGC Esports team. They're looking a little feisty down the back straight.
Can they go for the lead for the final step on the podium? They're going to go for the inside, and this could be a big move coming up the hill. Will they be able to hang on to the spot? They do not. They back out, and Peterson hangs on for the time being.
Peterson able to hang on to that 3rd place position. We saw that he had the pace to potentially get up to 2nd. Fortunately, just some errors through the lap traffic bring you back out of the clutches, or out of attacking range of 2nd place and into defending range of 3rd. But here Peterson has just been a little bit quicker than Clemente and has been able to bridge that gap back out to about a 2nd before we come down to turn 1, where, I mean, let's be honest, the 10 was really good on the brakes, was able to cut that gap back in. But it stretches back out to about 0.6 of a second as we come through Sector 1.
How about the battle for the GT Pro race lead? Haven't talked about these guys in a while, but the 69 car, Velazzi, has really closed in on Teixeira the last little while. And that 992 now under some pretty heavy fire. This could be a big battle here. Started to develop. You take a look at the lap times. How about that? Look at the times closed in on just the last 3 alone.
Yeah, this is one that I kind of thought was wrapped up, right? I thought the 992, after the pit strategy with them ended up being up front after the yellow flag, I thought that it was a stroke of genius, a stroke of luck with the caution flag coming out, really hit their strategy right. But Velazzi has kept that gap really, really close, brought it down to 0.3 of a second, and is challenging for the race lead in the GT Pro class. I mean, fantastic racing here from the 69.
Been great so far, and no signs yet on any of these drivers backing down. You take a look at the sector times, and it seems like sectors 2 and 4 are where Velazzi is able to close in so much more, and to the final sector as well. So we're seeing some pretty good runs here from both these two drivers. This is looking to be a mammoth battle for the GT Pro win.
Still 1 hour and 10 minutes left to go in this thing, so you never know if we're going to get another yellow to break it up and give more people an opportunity, or whether we're going to run green to this thing and these guys are going to be nose to tail fighting it out until the end. You never know with this multi-class style of racing. Love the random yellows that we get in Visca as well to kind of break it up, kind of let the field reconvene on top of each other, make it a little bit more realistic in terms of the yellow flags and having them in the actual IMSA series. So really cool to see Visca giving us that opportunity, and it's led to some really great racing so far, as we see with the top 2 nose to tail through the S's.
So the GT Pro battle still very much on for the lead of the race. Into pit road is going to be digital chicane. Paolo Calvo jumps out of the car, and Quinn Mitchell hops in for the number 80 entry. So Quinn Mitchell going to be looking to take this car quite possibly to the end of this race. While the top 2 in GT Pro still remain within 1/4 of a second.
You got to think for the GT Pros, GTMs, if they're coming down with an hour and 10 minutes left, especially after we just had that yellow flag, which ended around the 1 hour and 25-minute mark, you got to think that they can make it to the end, right? There's no way that they would be pitting right now if they could not make it to the end if they came down onto that last pit stop. So you got to think the digital chicane car can make it to the finish from here. So we're going to be seeing a lot of those GT cars come down pit road, making those final pit stops pretty soon.
You say that, I'm not 100% confident that they can. Here comes the 992 into pit road. So Valachi is, Teixeira is in, Valachi stays out. So is Race Tech Competition into pit road. The fuel, remember, there are fuel restrictions on these cars. And the fuel for this race, looking in, has Santos just gone off the racetrack?
Uh-oh.
Oh, he has. Oh, no. Oh, no. He's spun it fully. And there's a Corvette back there as well. Brad Crouch with problems.
What in the world has happened to your race leader, Lucas Santos? Oh, someone spun in front of him, and he had absolutely nowhere to go. Just kind of looped it. I don't think he's got any damage.
I think it was Crouch. Yeah, Crouch lost it in front of Santos, and he went off the racetrack, spun it around. Tell you what, Fields did a great job there to miss him, though. That could have been a much bigger incident.
So he does a good job getting the ship righted. He loses a chunk of time, a ton of positions, and like we were talking about, the sprint race championship is not wrapped up in the GTM. Now, Screeching Moose Motorsports finished last today, and Digital Chicane was 1 and 2. I don't think that the main championship would be wrapped up either. But for Screeching Moose, that's time that they really can't afford to give up. That's positions that are going to be tough to get back at the end of this thing. I'm going to be able to or check the GTM sprint race standings right now. The Digital Chicane 80, only 49 back from Screeching Moose Motorsports. So if that 80 can find a way after that pit stop to stretch it all the way to the distance, and Santos still has a pit stop and had that issue, perhaps the Digital Chicane number 80 could find something at the end of this thing. But like you mentioned, I'm not sure about the gas. It's weird because I would think that they could make it on one pit stop from an hour and 30 minutes left because of that yellow, right? But they should if they pitted and filled it up.
But the tanks are limited to 70%. So that knocks that option out altogether, I would think.
Well, that's what it's just with an hour and a half left, even with 70% fuel, you would think that you would run at 45 minutes in GTM, GT Pro.
Yeah.
But them pitting with an hour and 10 left, that throws a big question mark in my mind. I guess that means I had the fuel calculations just a little bit wrong. Maybe they could only make it about 35, 40 minutes in the GTM, GT Pro classes, so they couldn't make it on one pit stop. So they're getting one of the two that they had out of the way early, I suppose. I don't know. Sometimes the fuel situation between the different classes can be a little much to keep track of, but whenever they come down pit road a little early like that, I guess we got to assume that they've got one more pit stop to make.
So you're watching the battle for third place as we have seen Valachi looking like he may have come down to pit road. Still trying to track where all this went down. We got a little bit sidetracked with that moment that happened coming off of the corner. And now, oh boy, Limprecht off the road again. He's going to be able to get himself back sorted. But right now, you're looking for the 992, right? I mean, Teixeira up there still. Right now, this number 992 is still looking very strong.
Running good lap times after coming out of pit lane, having a good bit of clean air, so they're able to run good lap times as well. It's always very, very important. Make sure that you pit at the right time. You got to pay attention to where you're going to come out, how the traffic's going to be around that area of the racetrack. Looks like the 992 hit it on the nose. Now they do have some faster cars coming through. That's Martinez, the GTP leader, getting a little squirrely on the outside.
I tracked what happened. Thomas D'Ambrosio hopping into the car for North Sim Racing. So that is why they have dropped back so far. They took about 20 extra seconds, and that was to get some fresh tires on. It was also to change the drivers out. So Thomas D'Ambrosio into the car for North Sim Racing. That's why they've dropped off so far from the 992 after their latest pit stop.
.312 hanging on right here to the 8th place position. Pretty big gap between them and the car in front and the car behind, so not really fighting anybody on the racetrack currently. But Wildenauer doing a good job bringing that thing up in 8th currently. Swan 10 seconds off, so not really having to worry from behind. It's a different class right behind him, not really fighting for position. As we switch over to the LMP2s, so never mind. Back to the GT Pros as Lurbier, God bless, I cannot say this man's name, but he went off the racetrack.
And just taking a little bit of an off-track excursion there, and this looked like it may have been self-inflicted. Yep, too much speed off into the grass, no harm, no foul. DS Racing Esports Team's GTP entry has crashed. And that is a spin at Oak Tree Bend, or what used to be Oak Tree Bend. The tree isn't there anymore, and I will never forgive them for it. I can understand.
No tree bend.
I can understand why they got rid of it, but they should put a new tree in there.
Nope, I think we should just change the name. I just came up with the perfect name for it.
Zalacious into pit road in LMP2. And as well as that, the pass for second. Nicholas Peterson getting around Thomas Marks for the number 2 spot. And that was because Fisher Motorsports having a bit of a worry about going off track there.
Yeah, it's tough to do it through the S's. Now that's a slower S's section, so maybe a little bit easier through that one than the faster one, a little bit up the way. But whenever the opportunity presents itself, you got to take it. The MSP number 3 did it right there. They've moved themselves up to second. The only problem is they're 12 seconds off the race lead, 13.
Well, Peterson doesn't have to finish in the lead, though. He just really needs to finish on the podium, and he's good to go. So he's fine running where he's at. A win's great, but championship's even better.
Yeah, but you're still thinking about the season-long championship too, right? You're thinking, okay, we got 2 more races left. I want to finish as high in this one as possible as well to give myself a good points gap or fight myself towards the top of the championship for the main season. Now, the Sprint Race Championship, obviously important. Obviously, what you got to look out for, and it is probably going to make a couple of these guys who have that, I don't know, I guess the championship lead well in hand at the end of this thing, run a little bit smoother or a little bit safer, maybe not push quite as hard. But for a couple of these guys that are in 2 championship battles, right, both of them are close, you're going to have to go all out every single lap and try to take every position you can get, even if you've got the sprint race one locked up.
Battle for the LMP2 lead has really picked up in earnest. You got second place trying to mount a challenge on first. Going racing right to the tail end of Rising Panda Racing. And it's looking as though this might be a battle that could go down straight to the wire as well. Rising Panda hanging on for now. But Nicholas Goen is charging big time at the number 2 spot behind him. So look how much speed. He picked up 2/10 in that one corner there alone.
And this is one of those that are gonna fight a little bit harder, I think, right? These two are both going at it for the season-long championship in LMP2. I think it's a little bit bigger of a gap here than in other series, but because of that, Rising Panda's absolutely got to finish in front of Goen tonight if they want to have a chance to win the season-long championship. And to that point, I believe, let me check the LMP2 standings one more time for the Sprint Race Championship. Goen's got it wrapped up right now, 112-point gap over Rising Panda. So Rising Panda's going to need Goen to have a mistake and themselves finish it first to wrap up the Sprint Race Championship. As we see that number 4 car in the GTPs getting way off the racetrack. Good rejoin though. No harm, no foul. Just losing a little bit of time.
So the battle continues between Michael Laufer and Nicholas Goen as they make that mad scramble to try to see who can pick up the LMP2 race win. But it looks like Goen's going to be checked up a little bit behind one of the BMWs, so that is going to put him down and out for the time being. Well, we got that. We got the pass for 4th, and I think this was an actual pass for 4th. Look at that down to the inside of that is flirting with the margins of what you can get away with the paint. Oh, now contact!
Oh, no.
Two GTs off the track, look out, and he's gonna collect one of the Mustangs.
Martin and Santos both in the GTPs, both going off, and Vinka Taraju way off in the GTMs, getting involved in it. Luckily, at least Vinka Taraju was already involved in something earlier, so it's not taking out another competitor, but it's tough for the GTPs. More
trouble though, and that looked like it was finally side by side through the S's, and it didn't work.
I told you it wasn't gonna work. For the GTPs, you can't go through there side by side. It's too quick.
Pretty hefty whack there that he took to the other side of the racetrack. Let's follow. I mean, Pereira did kind of pinch him in. Going side by side, it's tough, and especially in a section like that, probably should have been avoided.
I agree. He definitely pinched him too narrow on that apex right there, right? And it didn't really give Fisher Motorsports much room on the racetrack to at least try to keep that prototype on the tarmac. Unfortunately, there they both go spinning. And again, it's tough to go side by side through there, but you find a hole, you find a gap, and it's so tough to pass everywhere that you almost have to take it if it presents itself. I don't know, you got to give just a little bit more room. But again, it's just tough to do. The change in direction, no matter how good these cars are at changing their direction, it's still tight. Super tight through those corners because you're able to carry so much speed into them. And that's the first time we've seen GTPs go side by side through there all night together. And, well, that's the outcome.
We were tracking what was the battle for the GTM race lead, but they've just had 3 prototypes get in the mix there, so that is going to really break up that fight. It goes from what was down to just 0.2 of a second down to over a second entirely. So that's going to put a swift end to that battle. Got drivers into pit road, Thomas Barton's into pit road, Jack Hedgecock's hopping into the car for Going Racing. So Nicholas Goen finally hopping out of the car, recognized he had to make the drive time requirements, and he's going to put his teammate into the car.
Yeah, Hedgecock's getting in for the number 18. Going to bring this thing to the finish over the course of the last hour. Can't believe we're already into the last hour. I feel like the first hour and 40 minutes have absolutely flown by here this afternoon. And we are getting into the nitty-gritty now. If a yellow flag comes out and bunches up the field at this point, oh my goodness, that restart's going to be crazy.
Battle for 4th here, and this one got a little bit physical, it looked like, and, well, not quite. Fisher Motorsports just ran a little bit wide, but good defensive driving there, though, from Scowers SS Racing. Keeps themselves in that 4th position for now, but here comes Fisher once again to the inside of Oak Tree. Now does Kohlmeyer overshoot? He does not. He diamonds off that apex perfectly down the backstretch.
Great move there from Kohlmeyer, getting himself up to 4th place in the LMP2s. And honestly, 2nd place isn't completely out of the cards. I know that he's 13 seconds back from Cadiz, but that's at least oh man, our race leader has just taken out a GTM coming down the short chute in between the SS sections. Or sorry, I'm on a replay, but it's still from this lap. A little bit earlier this lap, our race leader got hip checked by the 29 Mercedes. And
that was Martinez that got hip checked?
Yeah, on lap 58.
Oh.
In between the slow S's at the beginning of the lap and the fast S's that we just saw the 2 GTPs get together.
I'll try to look back and see if we can track down what happened here to Alvaro Martinez. He's getting by one of the GT Pros there, so this looks like it was a little bit before all of this went down.
We're getting close right here. This is a good spot for it, I believe. It's going to be after this little sector. He's going to come through this slow S's section, come up on that number 29 up in front, that Mercedes. And just a little bit of miscommunication. I honestly don't know if the Mercedes was paying attention to his mirrors enough or what, but clearly got to the outside, gets squeezed out to the outside. Maybe missed the hip check, but huge impact for the 29 down to the inside.
That's a big hit for Roy Vermeer, who went off the racetrack. That's a hard lick into the wall as well. You see one of the Grizzly Motorsports cars, that one running the GTP category, getting through a whole host of lap traffic there. Just not too much a lot of these guys can do. Garrido is into pit road for the DS Racing crew. So the number 88 entry is into the pits.
We think all these guys have to come down one more time. For the GTPs and the LMP2s, if you're pitting with over 50 minutes to go, I imagine you've got to come back down pit road. We saw these guys pit after 35 minutes the first time. One driver off the racetrack in front of your race leader, Ray DeBoer, in the Scowers GT LMP2, doing a little bit of grass cutting.
Ooh, overshot and just off the road.
Better than hitting that tire barrier on the inside like we've seen a couple times tonight.
Yeah, no kidding. A lot of these battles of the class leads are really picking up in earnest. You can see Will Robertson once again trying to close in Joseph Okapian over there. Still not looking to make any kind of move for the lead. He's trying to close. He's, I think, probing. He's trying to find the right way to get in there. How about a battle between Nuno Barbosa and Claudio Di Santo? They're going to exchange hands. That was for 9th place in GTM down to the turn 1.
Yeah, Barbosa taking that position for now, 9th place. Moving back up to the race lead for GTM. Akapian holding on 0.3 of a second back to Robertson. 55 minutes to go. It's going to be a long time that he's got to hang on to this spot with a driver that's looking just a little bit quicker at the moment. We know we've still got one more pit stop for these guys as well. A lot of strategy still left to be played out today. This entire running order could get completely flipped on its head from a couple different things. One being a couple of incidents like we've seen early on. One could be from a yellow, but here for the GTPs, Schmidt looking to the inside.
He was lapping or overtaking Fisher Motorsports' Rico Kohlmeyer there. So right now, this is one of the only battles that we have for position on the racetrack that is actually within the same class. A lot of cars getting around cars that are not within their class, but this is the big one, and it's for the GTM race lead off of the SS Racing, trying to take what could be a monumental win for them this afternoon. Alvaro Martinez, the overall race leader, comes down to pit road, but this right here, this could be really big for them, right? I mean, off of the SS race right now, they've got 3 races where they finished in the top 10, 2 within the top 5. They are still winless on the season as a whole, and they are really looking to see if they can't get themselves in with a good momentum. Sorry, 3 and 4 for top 5s and top 10s, but sitting 3rd place in the points, 641. They are pretty much out of it, but they are in a heads-up grudge match with MSP, Firestorm, and the Digital Chicane number 93 for the final podium spot in the overall championship.
Yeah, whenever you get down to the end of these things, to the end of these seasons, right, and you really start paying attention to the championship, and maybe you're completely out of it for the championship, right, actually winning the entire thing, but you start paying attention to who's around you, who you can still catch up to, and you really just try to maximize what you can on the season. If you're 4th place and mathematically you can get up to 2nd, you do everything you can to get up to 2nd, as we see our GTP cars all down on pit road. Presumably one more pit stop after this from what we saw. Or LMP2's down pit road 2. I imagine they've got one more pit stop with 52 minutes left.
That would track for me as well. I think once we see the LMP2s coming down at about 40 minutes or so, they're going to be good to go to the end of this race. Neil Middleton, Nicholas Soul, in a battle for the 2nd spot in your GT Pro category. And Brock Crouch having a bit of a nervy moment off the final corner. And he's going to lose a few spots as a result. He's going to lose out to Gary Brown, and he could lose out to Thomas D'Ambrosio here as well. He'll get the momentum back out before D'Ambrosio can catch him. Or will he? D'Ambrosio sends it in. And North Sim Racing is now up to 8th.
Good move there from the 69, late dive down into turn number 1. Able to make it stick, able to get the move done. So good move there from D'Ambrosio. He's got an LMP2 coming up quick behind him. Looking to get by him as soon as possible. Right before these S's, you really want to get it done before you get to that fast section of the racetrack. Make sure you don't get held up. A little bit harder for the LMP2s to get through than what we saw with the GTPs. Going back up towards the front of the GT Pro field. Middleton hanging on from Soul. This is a battle for 2nd.
Battle for 2nd, and it is not looking to go anywhere anytime soon. You're right on board with Soul. Takes this one off the final corner. He's got a lot of slipstream down the front stretch. There could be a look here to turn number 1. Is he going to be brave enough to commit to the move? He's going to have to go around the outside. Prix Racing fends him off down low. Going to try to send it in. Is this enough? Carrying that momentum round the long way of turn 1, but Prix Racing's Neil Middleton hangs on. Free
now shifting to the defensive as they come through the initial S's. Scours S's racing in the LMP2, trying to hang on to that 4th place position. They've made the pit stop. Now they're trying to get back through the LMP2 field.
Damian Benke, Vision 1 Motorsports, is into pit road as well. So Vision 1, the next driver to come on down and into the lane. Meanwhile, a battle is also won for the LMP2 lead as Kohlmeyer takes it away from Rising Panda Racing.
Kohlmeyer down on the inside, taking it away in that number 14. Oh, but they're still side by side. Rising Panda looking back for it. Little tight between the two. Not able to do it. Oh, and a spinner further back. I believe that was a GTM going around.
It was
Nonetheless,
the pro. It was Stefan Jakobsen of the Racetech Audi. Oh, we got hit by the Fisher Motorsports GTP. He was losing the tail end, and then GTP finished him off. And I can guarantee you right there, that was just Fisher Motorsports not realizing it was going to be loose under the corner, and he just couldn't check up at times. He was so close at that point.
Yeah, he was already having a little bit of a moment, just having to correct it, and unfortunately just did not find the opening or find the ability to save it, as the car behind him didn't give him much room to work with. But nonetheless, coming down to the end of this thing, you expect there to be a little bit less room given, right? You're a little bit more hesitant to breathe the throttle whenever somebody makes a mistake in front of you once you get into the last hour or so.
Quarter of a second, and with just under 49 minutes to go, Fisher Motorsports and Rising Panda Racing still in lockstep for this battle pack. But remember, Rising Panda pitted on lap 60, on their lap 60. Sorry. Meanwhile, Kohlmeyer, he has not yet come down this pit cycle. So Kohlmeyer still has to make another stop. That might be why we saw Rising Panda let him go easily.
Yeah, no reason to necessarily fight too hard, right? You don't want to push too hard. And I know I just said it's a little bit harder to breathe the throttle and lose a little bit of time. But if you know the guy in front of you's got another pit stop, or the guy battling you has another pit stop, you're losing more time by fighting him than by just letting him go and riding in his tire tracks more times than not. So probably just a smart move there. To let Kohlmeyer go by. Just, use the draft down these straightaways. Not necessarily the biggest deal.
Two new drivers into cars. Aaron Beaver has taken over control of the number 34 MSP machine. And then further down in the field, you've got now Sean Hatfield taking over from Lucas Santos. And third place in GTP has just gone off the road. Nelson Clemente with an off. That'll cost us some time. Back to Francisco Santos Pereira for DS Racing.
Yeah, way off the racetrack here through the grass. Was running in third, so losing a little bit of time. Not what you want to do at this portion, but able to get it back on the racetrack, not losing any fenders at the end of the day. That's more important. Making sure that you keep that thing nice and clean, at least giving yourself an opportunity. And again, that late race caution could come out and throw a wrench into this.
Here comes Kohlmeyer into pit road. Kohlmeyer drives into the pits, and he is going to be looking to have himself with a decent run. There you see Avadias Racing. Aukerbian hops out. Patrick Boiler going to jump into the car for the final stint of the night. And this should put the GTM runners good to go to the end. So final pit stops now underway from VIR. Well, Brad Crouch with problems. He was really slow coming to that corner. Almost like he was corrected from a spin.
We are starting to have a couple more issues. I think we're getting down to the end of this thing. Some people are getting a little tired, a little worn out, and driving a little bit harder than what we've been seeing throughout most of the race so far. As we're coming down to the end, the intensity is picking up, and I think we're starting to see the last round of pit stops for the GTM cars.
So the field's still doing a good job on trying to get this whole mess sorted. There you see Martinez still leading the way. 13 seconds clear. This battle for first in GTM this whole time has just continued to rage on. Only one lap separates these drivers on pit strategy, so you know they're not going to be in too far away from each other.
Boiler hanging on for Beaver here in GTM, so paying attention to the pit strategy, paying attention to the battles that you've got on the racetrack. Just so much going through your mind here behind the wheel. Luckily for these guys, like you mentioned, they are required to have spotters. They've got teammates, so there's a lot of the thinking is done kind of behind the scenes. The guy behind the wheel just doing the driving. At least that's kind of what you're hoping for. You're hoping that your teammates can come up with the strategy, can come up with the right pace that you need to be running, and you just have to put it into action. Tight here for Alvaro Martinez, though. He's behind two LMP2 cars. Just chooses a smart thing. He's got a 14-second gap. Instead of forcing the issue, he has just backed off, let these guys settle it in front of him, just so that he doesn't create any more of an issue, right? They're going to come through the final sector. He's going to be a little bit faster down the front straightaway, and he should be able to blow past these guys.
That was Garrett Spence and Damian Benke that almost came together there. And there you see Martina saying, all right, you've had your fun. I need to get through as well before I lose too much more time here, especially since you got GT traffic up the road as well. He doesn't want to be caught behind another big lap traffic pack, because that's how you can absolutely ruin a massive gap like what he's got right now. So he's going to make short work of some of these drivers and then get himself back into full contention. You see this battle for GTM still raging on. This race tonight has been absolutely fantastic. And if you want some more heads-up action, well, Tuesday will got you covered. It'll be a doubleheader. We'll, of course, have the live-to-tape broadcast of the ASRL Next Gen Cup Series and their 250-mile trip around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And that'll be back-to-back with the old SRL Cup Series live from America's gambling capital, Round 8. Hosted at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And then the Beer League makes its return, and it's to another venue that NASCAR fans are familiar with, but perhaps not so much for if you're on the road course side. It'll be the Homestead Miami Speedway and the Oval B layout, utilizing the Oval, just like what VSCA is going to be doing. The prototypes and the GTs go there in September.
Ooh, we get a little bit of a preview. I like it. I can't wait for that one. That's going to be fun. The Beer League's always great week in, week out. I got to point out, though, Damian Benke, we were talking about the battle with the GTP leader trying to get through. Damian Benke was in that LMP2 battle that he was trying to lap, excuse me. Unfortunately for Benke, he ended up looping that thing and losing a good chunk of time, so now he's not even in the battle that he was in beforehand. Way off the pace compared to where he was.
It's unfortunate for Benke, as he now finds himself very much on the back foot with this. He'll have to try to resort and get things rolling again. For the GTP field, everybody's kind of broken apart here. No battles so far in GTP. No battles either in LMP2. GT Pro, you got a few up and around the racetrack, but they're kind of ebbing and flowing as we work through the final cycle of pit stops. And it's kind of the same story for GTM right now. So, again, we have settled into the rhythm that we can expect to see towards the end of this race.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty safe to say, unless that yellow flag comes out. Most of the pit stops are cycling their way through. We've got everybody out on the racetrack where they, kind of deserve to be running, I suppose, after 2 hours of racing. 40 minutes left to go. I still think that there might be a few cars out there, a couple of LMP2s that'll have to come down pit road, a couple of GTPs, but I believe that our race leaders are set.
So with most of the race leaders being set, this battle for the lead, right now, one of the lone things that remains, but it is very much ebbing and flowing, as battles so often do in the VSCA Sports Car Championship. So what we are going to do, we are going to take ourselves a quick jump back. When we return, it is more racing action for the final laps at the Virginia International Raceway.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
This race tonight has been brought to you by Twin Bush USA, your expert for automotive workshop equipment. Located in North Las Vegas, Nevada. Visit them today or find them online at twinbush.com. Twin Bush, quality that convinces. So racing action still continuing on. Benjamin Fisher for Fisher Motorsports has just come down to pit road. You also saw Sean Hatfield for Screeching Moose Motorsports drop the tail end of his GTM Mercedes. This is what came from that. And in fact, he turned in on Rising Panda Racing trying to lap him and wrecked himself.
Yeah, I feel like Rising Panda was there through the corner before, right? He had gotten that line. Oh, big slide. Big slide there from the 55. He's going to lose a spot. That could have been huge. Taking out a couple of them, but he just loses one position to Kinetic Racing, letting the LMP2 go through. But that could have taken him out, man. I think that's Going that went through.
It was, and then Kinetic Racing ducked around Race Tech as well and picked up the 5th place spot they were battling for all throughout that commercial break. And then, of course, Bruno Carrera now within striking distance.
Carrera in the 992, looking to pick up just one more position. Kind of surprising to see the 992, 911 so far back. Maybe a couple of these guys up front still having to make that final pit stop because I believe the Porsches have already come down. Well, the 911's not a Porsche anymore, but I believe a couple of them have already decided to make a pit stop, and I think we still got some stragglers out there waiting. So it's gonna be kind of close coming down to the end of this thing. Not quite sure, at least in the GT Pros, who's really the leader at this point. I think the 44 still has another pit stop, and I feel like a couple of these others do as well.
You got other drivers like Benjamin Fisher and Sean Hatfield that are looking to go at it as this pack is in full force. This is a GTM and a GT Pro runner, both looking to exchange some hands. 35 minutes remaining in racing action. This, once again, is the final race within the Sprint Cup that we have got this afternoon. Next time we see these drivers out, it'll be for the penultimate round. That'll be on September 21st for the Miami Sunrise 6 Hour. That'll be, once again, coming at you at noon Eastern Time. It'll be running straight through until 6 p.m. from Homestead Miami Speedway, and then we close it out a month later for Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta in Brazelton, Georgia. So there is a lot of races that are going to be decided within the next 2 months. But the final of the sprints is what we're running here this afternoon.
Petit Le Mans is going to be so fun. I cannot wait to see that race with these guys going around Road Atlanta. Going to be absolutely fantastic. I would argue it's kind of a similar racetrack to VIR, obviously, in the sense that you've got grass surrounding both sides, kind of a little bit more difficult, right? If you run wide, you're going to get loose. You're going to get sideways. You're going to have to correct it on the dirt, on the grass. So I think it's going to be a relatively similar race than what we've seen at VIR so far here today. But I think it provides a couple of different challenges, like the last chicane, going to provide a lot of issues for a whole lot of the field.
It very well could. I mean, there's still a long way to go. I mean, yeah, a half hour in the span of a near 3 hour race doesn't sound like a lot, but I mean, you realize the lap times putting down here are only about 1.5 minutes for the front runners, that's still a long time. It's a lot of laps still to go and lots of time for a lot of these racers to still have their races decided. For the most part, we've seen about half the field for the GTs come down for the final pit stop. Still waiting on the last stops to come down. Claudio DeSanto off the road for Wolf Motorsports Racing. And this is, oh, hello. This was actually something completely different that happened just a little ways before this. So DeSanto, he dropped it by himself, and he got hit by one of the tries. Oh boy, that's a dangerous thing to do, just backing across the racetrack. Nearly took out one of the digital chicane Ferraris, and this was the second incident that we just cut into a little while ago. Oh, don't tell me. Okay, I thought he was shoved off the racetrack again, but he kind of, almost like he again got loose and twitched himself off the track, but it was a good recovery.
We also just getting out of the way for some of the faster cars after recovering from his issue. Better safe than sorry. If you have another issue going on, maybe switch it over to the grass rather than back in the middle of the road whenever there are faster class cars coming through. So maybe just a little bit smarter of a move there after the initial incident. But nonetheless, the 55 now in the GT Pros hanging on to 6. DS Racing trying to do everything they can to get by in that 992. And they've got a little bit of a challenge from one of the digital chicane GT AMs right behind. Doubt these guys are on the same lap, but I imagine that digital chicane car is going to be wanting to come through. And I gotta say also, I don't know exactly how the pit stops are lining out, but as we are currently running, digital chicane's number 80 is in 3rd. I gotta think they've got another pit stop, and Hatfield's in 4th for Screeching Moose. But if for whatever reason this is the correct running order at the front of the field, at least with Mitchell being up there, I still think it's not going to be enough for the Sprint Race Championship, but they're at least putting themselves in an opportunity where they could potentially have it go their way if something else happens to Screeching Moose. And of course, as soon as I'm saying that, Quinn Mitchell's coming down pit road in the 80.
Well, what are you going to do? You got Jakobsen to the inside of Carrera to the inside of Jakobsen, sorry. So Bruno Carrero back into the car for the 992. Takes over the 6th place spot from the Race Tech competition Audi. Boy, how the mighty have fallen for that Audi team, right? I mean, they had such a good run going early in this race. They were up there fighting for spots in the podium, in the top 5, and now they are 4 seconds out of the top 5 and 32 seconds behind the race leaders. So race performance doesn't look like it's still quite there, but they got the pace, right? They can do it. They just need to have more go their way during the actual races themselves.
I've said bad luck bug a million times describing the digital chicane cars. I mean, the bad luck bug has struck a good chunk of the field here this season. You know, a lot of guys getting taken out from stuff that's not really their own fault at the end of the day. But here at VIR today, I don't feel like it's been quite as much of that same story. There's been a couple issues, like I said, the digital chicane cars early on. But as this race has kind of settled out and gotten into a normal rhythm, I feel like most of the bad luck stuff is kind of rids itself from happening. Most of it's, you know, putting yourself in the right position, and if you put yourself in the wrong position, then I feel like that's kind of where the potential issues come from, and that's more of a driver mistake, a driver error, putting yourself in bad spots rather than just some bad luck. Kind of thinking of the Screeching Moose number 5. They've had some minor driver errors so far over the last hour, at least allowing maybe some of these other guys to race them for the win.
So half an hour fully left to go in this race. Let's take another quick rundown through your field. We'll go top to bottom with this one. And of course, we'll start with Alvaro Martinez leading the way for World of Sim Racing. Nicholas Peterson for Mayor Sims Performance runs 2nd. It's Nelson Clemente for NGC. Francisco Santos Pereira in 4th. João Garrido is running 5th. Tyler Campbell just came out of pit road. He runs in 6th place right now. And Patrick Rolf, Fish Motorsports down in 7th. Matthew Rowden has got to that car back out onto the racetrack, but they are all the way down in 8th, almost 10 laps off the leaders. And then right now, Felipe Sauner for Bravo Stochata, the lone driver that is DNF'd for your GTP field.
Looking down into the LMP2s, Go-In Racing up in the 1st place spot. Jack Hedgecock's behind the wheel currently. Tri-State Racing's number 321 in 2nd with Garrett Spence making a move on a slower car down the back straightaway. Vision One Motorsports in the number 11 currently sitting in third with Damian Binky. Rising Panda Racing in fourth. Christian Kemprager behind the wheel. Fisher Motorsports still are number 14, currently in fifth with Rico Kohlmeyer driving that machine. Rusty's Bachelors Racing in sixth. That's Henry Mittenen in the number 112. The 048 is driven by Kyle Granger currently for Scours GT. The 123 for Tri-State Racing, driven by Christian Sherrard down in the 8th place position. And then GSE Esports Racing in 9th, and Vulture Motorsports back in 10th. They are out for the Pensus.
Moving on to GT Pro, you've got, of course, Pascal Tice for Fisher Motorsports into the car for the final stint. He is 3 seconds ahead of Thomas D'Ambrosio in the number 69 for your GT Pro field. Gary Brown for Vulture Motorsports sitting in third with John Goodwood for Torque Freak Racing down in fourth. Fifth place is headed up by Kinetic Racing with Aiden Campbell behind the wheel. Bruno Carrera hopping back into the car for the final stint after driving the first stint. He runs in sixth. Benjamin Fisher is in seventh with Stefan Jakobsen currently coming down to pit road in 8th place. And then Mark DeBoer running in 9th, almost going off the racetrack in the lone Corvette in the field. And then the World of Sim Racing BMW puts himself all the way down in 10th. And for this one, it is Hugo Oliveira, the lone car, down and out in GT Pro.
Out of the GTM field off in the SS Racing's number 83, currently leading the way. That's Patrick Boiler letting a lot of these faster car throughs through No Tree Corner. Second place, MSP, number 34, currently driven by Aaron Beaver. Just a little ways off, not too far back, 2 seconds. And then back 20 seconds. Screeching Moose Motorsports, number 5, that's Sean Hatfield, currently driving that machine, looking to wrap up the Sprint Race Championship here today for the GTMs. Dogs on Web DS Racing in the 555. That's Nuno Barbosa currently driving in the 4th place position. Dangler Performance in 5th with Theo Taylor behind the wheel currently. Vulture Motorsports Plus number 017, Errol Orexoy in 6th. Digital Chicanes number 80 and number 93 currently running in the 7th and 8th place positions. Again, not the 9th that they were wanting. Real Pixel Motorsport in the number 312 currently down in number 9, in the 9th place position. Photosec by WMS. They were having a good race earlier. Unfortunately, things have gone awry. They are sitting in pit lane right now, 4 laps behind the GTM racer and that number 515. Firestorm Motorsports, they're a couple more laps behind Photosec, but they're on the racetrack currently back in 11th. And then finally rounding out the 12-car GTM field is going to be Vulture Motorsports number 016, driven by Justin Delano. Still one position potentially on offer for them as the 515 is off the racetrack.
And speaking of Delano, this was actually a moment he had while we were going through the GT Pro field. Just lost the tail end going off the racetrack at the final corner. Able to get himself sorted there. And right after that, Tyler Campbell had this moment. Again, locking up that right front. The GTPs just cannot get slowed down for that right front there. And now Patrick Boiler having a momentary off-road experience. And that will drag Sean Hatfield in just a little bit more. And I still think Boiler is good to go to the end on fuel. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think right now Boiler is looking pretty settled. But you wanted to talk about the drivers that had to finish these championships up, right? Nicholas Peterson needed to finish in the top 3. He's running second right now. Easy win for him. Jack Hedgecock, easy win for himself. He only did finish in the top 6. He's leading the way by over 3/4 of a minute. Tice was leading the way in the points. He is still running in the lead as well in your GT Pro field. And then, well, it's Sean Hatfield and the rest of Screeching Moose Motorsports. They run second place for the time being. They are looking ready to rumble as well for the championship for the Sprint Cup.
Boiler's down pit lane. I was just about to tell you that Boilard should be fine because he pitted a lap after Hatfield. I guess none of them are okay in the GTM field if Boilard's coming down right now.
You see Thomas D'Ambrosio leaving pit road. So D'Ambrosio coming out onto the racetrack, and there you see Gary Brown is also in for Vulture Motorsports. So it looks like the GTs had one more stop left in them. Or at least some of the ones that came down earlier in the stint did. We'll see if this translates to the rest of the field as well, but this could be a big shakeup here.
Oh, big time. I have no idea how the running order is going to look through any of the GT fields at about 15 minutes left in this thing. I think Hatfield still has to come down. Boiler just finished his pit stop. Now he's in a close-ish battle with Beaver in the 34. But Beaver also pitted on the same lap as as they did earlier, so I don't think Beaver can make it. I don't know. The GTs are throwing me for a loop with his pit strategy.
On board with Rising Panda Racing as they approach the back of Vision 1 Motorsports. A look for the inside. Could it go for it? Right to the gearbox and almost into the tail end of Vision 1. Christian Kemprager not showing any worries on getting to the tail end of Damian Banky. They're going to blast down the front straightaway. Banky pulls out a little bit of a gap, but I think Vision 1 just had a little bit, or Rise Panda Star had a little bit better of a run. They fired down the front stretch, and this is looking to be a good run.
And they got the draft coming down the front straightaway, looking to make a move happen. Not going to be close enough coming down into turn number 1. But they're looking feisty in that 4th place position. Rising Panda thinks they should be a little bit higher up in the field. They've been running really, really quick lap times earlier. Had a little bit of a moment not too long ago. Gave up the race lead. I imagine GoWin still has to make one more pit stop. They have not pitted in a long, long time. So GoWin will be coming down at some point here relatively soon. Rising Panda should have made their last pit stop. It'll be interesting to see where GoWin comes out in relation to the rest of the LMP2 field, because there's only 7 seconds between 2nd to 4th. If they come right out in between them, we could have a heck of a battle in the LMP2 category.
So the field still looking to make something happen. Kinetic Racing and DS Racing Esports teams seeing what they can do as they're fighting it out for 3rd place as well. So 2 3rd place battles developing over the GT Pro and the LMP2 fields. We'll see how things are looking as the rest of the pack set to slice and dice into the final 20 minutes.
Oh, looking to make a move on the inside here. Rising Panda just finds the gap, finds the space, now ripping it around the outside with the momentum. Look at that move from Rising Panda Racing, able to get it done. Christian Kemprager taking the 3rd place spot.
So still looking to go at it as this pack is having a good run. And problems for Sean Hatfield. Hatfield is off the road, and this blows the championship open potentially. For the GTM Sprint Cup Championship. And this is after contact with Stefan Jakobsen and Sean Hatfield from the looks of things. Hatfield was fresh out of pit road.
Oh, car inside.
Just wasn't anticipating it. Maybe thought he was going to be let go. That was not the case, but that dumps Hatfield out a long way. I think the good news for Hatfield is the fact that he lost all of those spots through pit stops. So that is going to be a huge relief, because that means it's a little less work for him to do, trying to get them all back later if the rest of the field still has to come down pit road one more time.
The thing, how many points do you get per position here in the sprint races? What is the difference between points position? Because they are 49 to the good over Mitchell, I believe, in the 80 right in front of them. I don't know exactly how many points it is per position. Mitchell, though, he's got cars he can pass in front of him. He's got Urixoy, he's got Taylor. Within 7 seconds, if something happens, Mitchell might be able to swipe the sprint race championship away from Screeching Moose in the dying moments.
So Nelson Clemente is in. Jack Hedgecox is just leaving pit road in the LMP2 lead. So looking like Hedgecox will hang on to the lead of his race, although Garrett Spence is really looking to reel that gap in. It's down to just 2.5 seconds now, but good job throughout this pack right now. Theo Taylor having to put himself around as he has just gone off the racetrack with this spin coming through the first sector of the racetrack. Whoops.
Just weird. The back end just dropped away from him. Had honestly a lazy spin coming through there. That was a very strange one, running all by yourself.
Crazy Matt, the routing getting his way by 2 drivers. That is for on-track position, by the way, that pass is made for. And there is your battle for 3rd place in LMP3.
Banky just got passed by Kemprager not too long ago, trying to run him back down, but now stuck behind the slower car through no tree corner, and that's going to let Kemprager just get away. Down the back straightaway, better exit there for the 46. Rising Panda Racing looking good up in the top 3, but unfortunately their chances for the race win seem to be slipping away with GoWin Racing coming down pit road and still coming out 3 seconds in front of them. Going to be very tough to run that down. The only saving grace for them is Spence is only 0.6 of a second off of Hedgecox. If they get to racing, we could see something at the front of this LMP2 field.
So Nuno Barbosa is also in. That's the third place runner in GTN. That's one more spot now that Hatfield can try to pick off. And there's the battle for the LMP2 race lead. Spence has caught Hedgecox, and he is looking to get him around the long way, down to the turn number 1. Jack Hedgecox looking to hang on, and he's just going to cling on to that race lead for now.
Hedgecox coming out of pit road, colder tires, maybe just having a little bit harder of a time hanging on to the same speed that he had beforehand. Little squirrely coming out of there. Nonetheless, still hanging on to the race lead. It's going to be tough for Garrett Spence to make this pass. And like I said, if they get to racing, it's going to bring Camperger right back into this thing. And, well, the LMP2 championship for the sprint race, it's not super close, but if those front two get together, it really could create a huge shakeup and throw this championship in a whole different direction.
Overall leader Alvaro Martinez for World of Sim Racing is into pit road. So more and more and more drivers continuing to work on getting themselves in with a little bit of extra momentum in the closing stages. Less than 20 minutes to go. If you're going to make a move, you got to make it soon. You are effectively out of time.
Yeah, 17 minutes left. Not a lot left out there, especially because there's not a lot of passing zones. Now, you could still get through a little bit of the lap traffic and get a little bit lucky, but you also could get very unlucky, get in a bit of an accident. You never know, coming through the lap traffic, and it could completely ruin your race. So the last 15 minutes, it's all about doing what you can do. And you know what? Second place in the LMP2 field. They're coming down for the last pit stop. I thought Garrett Spence could make it to the end, but unfortunately, they were not running pretty dang tight between a couple of the GT pros.
Gary Brown and Aiden Campbell having a bit of a squabble there, coming down to the turn number 1, just grinding along the doors. Vulture sent it down the inside, and Kinetic wasn't willing to make room for him. Take it right on board. He sent that in from a long way back, and Kinetic Racing, there was a hole open there, to be fair, but they kind of shot it a bit late as well.
Looking at a battle here, 4th place in the GT Pros. Fisher hanging on from North Sim. As we got faster cars coming through as well, just trying to get by Grizzly Motorsports a little bit further back. Going to get a huge head of steam down the back straightaway. Easily passed both these GT cars who are in that battle for 4th. Hack Racing, after that huge off earlier, still out there running an 8th.
Still out there in front. I got another LMP2 runner behind these guys as well. And speaking of LMP2 runners, how about Comprager and Benke? Vision 1 Motorsports and Rising Panda Racing looking set to go out again, overtake for 4th place as well. We'll look at that in a moment as Colmeyer was overtaken by Henry Maitonen. But right now, Rising Panda just barely clinging on for 2nd, and Vision 1 going to get checked up behind the Vulture Motorsports GT Pro.
That's going to solidify that 2nd place for Camperger. But he's a little bit faster than going up front, so he might be able to go up there and take this race lead away and win this thing by the end of it. He's cut that lead to under 2 seconds in the LMP2s. He's looking at a replay coming down the back straightaway.
That was the pass for 4th. And now we got another battle for 4th. This is GT Pro. Well, he said the aggression was going to pick up in the last 20 minutes or so, and we're seeing that in full force as Thomas D'Ambrosio gets around Benjamin Fisher.
I don't know why we're all battling for 4th place all of a sudden in every single class, but I'm enjoying it. 4 for 4, but this ain't a Wendy's.
I fail to see what Wendy's
I'm sure
is.
that,
why are you dissing Wendy's? Are you dissing Wendy's?
No. That's their. They have a 4 for 4 biggie bag.
Oh, I only really get the
4 but
Frosties
this
and the
isn't
burgers.
Wendy's. Oh, that's your problem. You got to get the biggie bag, buddy.
Tyler Campbell with an off at Oak Tree Bend, and he's found the wall as well. It's a pretty big hit into the wall as well. So that could lead to some trouble for Campbell in the final stages of this race.
I'm still looking at that LMP2 battle. I know that Hedgecox has stretched it back out to 2 seconds, 2.2, but depending on the traffic. over the course of this next 13 minutes. That could come down, already down to 1.8 now. So I'm really, really paying attention to the front of that LMP2 field. I think Rising Panda has a lot in this thing. They want to get up back to the back bumper of going and try to take the challenge to him. It's just as Hedgecock's going to have enough time.
Well, we'll find out in a moment, won't we? 15 minutes to go, under 15 minutes to go. This has been a great race. I mean, this has been one of the more scenic races we've had so far, and this is, I think, going to be an incredible finish to this race. GT Pro is looking like this might be turning into a fuel game here, according to Neil Middleton. I'm taking his word for that one. He is one of the Torque Freak Racing runners, of course, that's been prominent all throughout this race so far this afternoon. So we'll see how this is going to pan out now. Right now, his teammate John Goodwin is leading the way. 13 minutes to go, and I haven't seen any signs of anybody trying to come down to pit road. Theo Taylor for Dangler Performance, though, is in.
You know, you were talking about this thing being a very good race so far, and I got to agree, right? Very, very good, mostly clean throughout the entire thing. Honestly, if you came into here and you didn't know that this was a video game and the graphics were a little bit better, this looks like a pretty realistic race, right? Like this league, time and time again, has put on races that look like you're watching the actual series in real life. Laguna Seca was maybe the outlier, but that's a tough racetrack. Everywhere else, I feel like in Visca has just been absolutely phenomenal, fantastic. The racing this year has just been mesmerizing to watch, and at a racetrack like VIR, watching them come through the S's and fighting their race cars every single time through there and working through the lap traffic, it has been absolutely fantastic.
Thought for a moment you're going to see one of the GT Pros slam into the tail of one of the Mustangs as the pack is still in full form. And here comes D'Ambrosio. Couldn't push it to the end, so he's in a pit road. Benjamin Fisher picks up fourth.
How many more are out there that still have to pit? That's my question. I'm not quite sure. I don't know. I don't know who's in the race lead that can stay in the race lead. Oh, we got Delano way off the racetrack coming out of the last corner. He's going to be coming down pit road, putting some more gas in the tank. 14 laps down, though, for Delano. Nobody on the racetrack that he can realistically pass in the next 11 minutes, even if an issue were to strike DeSanto or Vermeer at the back of that GTM field.
And the Fisher Motorsports LMP2 coming down as well. They couldn't go to the end. So I feel like if we're going to be seeing anybody going in for last-minute splash and dashes, now would be the time. You don't want to be that guy that had to pit on the final lap of the race because he couldn't go the one extra.
And I said the LMP2 battle was going to close up, and it has closed up. Look at this. Campringer has run this thing down to 0.7 of a second back from Hedgecock's. He's in the slipstream now, coming down the back straightaway. Can he use it enough? It's not going to be super big down the back. Actually losing a little bit of time down the end of the straightaway. Can he get just a little bit closer so that the next time they come through that back straightaway, he can get the huge draft through this last sector? He looks just to be a little bit slower, having a couple of corners a little bit poorer than Hedgecock's up in front, stretching that back out to a second. If Hedgecock's just finds a little bit of traffic before that back straightaway, though, Campringer will be right back there.
Comparing the lap times this time by, lap 80 was Hedgecock's out lap from pit road, so that's not really a time that we can really show as being too representative of how all of this pans out. But, well, right now, it's all looking very strong. And, well, there you go. Campringer closed in 1.6 seconds last time by. So that gap, well, I say that, it's actually just extended up to another half a second. So,
Lap traffic.
Yeah, lap traffic. It'll get you every single time.
You think they're closing in, and then all of a sudden Campringer has to go around the outside of a GT car through turn 1 and 2, and it just makes it way more difficult for him. We see Erexoy way off the racetrack. That's your 4th place runner in GTM. That's giving a position away to the digital chicane number 80 we were talking about. It's close for the Sprint Race Championship. That has just given a spot to the 80.
He was already out in front.
He had already passed him? Oh,
yeah.
Okay, the 80's flying if he had already passed him then.
And he had already passed him for that spot, and he had actually passed him he passed him a good while ago, about 2 laps ago.
He was 5 seconds back the last time that I checked on him. That's crazy. I guess maybe Erexoy had an issue beforehand, or maybe Mitchell's just got that much pace in that thing. We'll have to wait and see, because Erexoy's probably going to give that position over to Hatfield too. So it ends up becoming kind of a moot point, right? It doesn't really matter if Mitchell gets in front of a Rex Soy, if Hatfield also gets in front of him, not really changing anything in the points. Both of you moving up one position, and I do believe Mitchell's got to beat Hatfield by probably 3 to 4 spots.
Christian Sherrard breaking around Mark DeBoer for on track 26th. No chance on taking the race win for him this afternoon, and he will be looking to finish this race. Looks to be about 8 laps down from his class leader. Overall, it's been a relatively good race. I think only 3 cars actually fully marked as DNFs on the day. Well, all right, it's going to be 4. 1 in GTP, 1 in LMP2, and 2 in GT Pro, GTM, everybody else still on the racetrack. But, you know, 4 cars out of the race with the 42-car field, that's not bad.
No, not at all. Like I had mentioned, this feels like I'm watching a real life race, right? Most of the time you get onto a league on iRacing, or you get into a lot of leagues or broadcasting leagues on iRacing, and you can tell that it is an internet race, and that you know, sometimes the talent is lacking. But whenever we come to Visca, I don't really feel that most of the time. Yeah, like I said, Laguna Seca was a little bit of an outlier, just a ridiculous racetrack, tough to get around, kind of like you would expect Martinsville for the oval guys. It just doesn't work on iRacing. But whenever you get to a racetrack that iRacing emulates very, very well, the racing style, these guys put on a hell of a show, right? This race has been fantastic. Only a couple cars getting put out of it so far, and it has been clean and green for the most part.
Tyler Campbell comes down to pit road with 7 minutes to go, so one of the Grizzly Motorsports entries has taken to the pits this time by. And has he just... Okay, I thought he had just dropped out. He is back in now, though. So looking to go in for one last flash and go. And that's a drive-through penalty for striking that incident limit. We talked about that. First came into play big time at Circuit of the Americas, right? And quite a few drivers got caught out for it. We just saw the first driver get caught for it here this afternoon at VIR.
If it took 2 hours to get one car to the incident limit, then that means you've set the incident limit just about perfect for the sprint race. I mean, just about 2 hours in, you finally see somebody have an issue. That's, I don't know, they hit the nail on the head there, coming to 6 minutes to go. Unfortunate for them that they have to, you know, get that penalty at this stage of the race, kind of giving up a good chunk of time. But love to see that it was, you know, pretty accurate to where it needs to be. Nobody but them have had the incident penalty so far that I've noticed. As we see this battle for 6th place kind of heating up. Kinetic Racing, North Sim Racing, side by side into turn number 1. The 69 is going to get the move done.
Thomas D'Ambrosio getting around Aiden Campbell for the 6th place spot. So a good move for him. We'll see if Campbell can respond in the last 5 minutes of this race. You'd also seen as well Tri-State Racing, Christian Sherrard, getting around both of them for on-track position. Right now, the 69 to the 67. Still tucked up line of stern, but you can definitely tell that right now North Sim Racing is pulling away with a lot of late race charge.
Yeah, they've got a lot of pace here, already stretching that gap out to 0.8 of a second over the 67 after they just made the move down into turn 1. So great run here from D'Ambrosio, picking up a position in the late running. Still 5 seconds off of Brown up in the 116. Don't think he's going to be able to get anything more out of the night. Just got to hang on to it and have a clean finish, bring home that 6th place spot. Hedgecox had pulled out the gap in the LMP2 field to about 3.5 seconds, but I believe he's hit some lap traffic and had a bit of a moment, so Kampberger brings it back down to 2, but as soon as he hits that same lap traffic, you see it climb in the LMP2 field back up to 2.5, potentially up to 3. But you never know with the lap traffic. It just continuously changes up and down. Looking at Screeching Moose Motorsports trying to get past Rex Soy in the Vulture Motorsports number 017. Again, if they finish one position behind the 80, I think they're fine in terms of the Sprint Race Championship. So they're trying to get that position now coming down into the left-hander. It looks like Rex Soy is just going to give it to him.
Yeah, Rex Soy not looking to get involved in that fight, so Screeching Moose Motorsports and Sean Hatfield can be pretty secure in knowing that they've got this thing pretty much locked out. Quinn Mitchell was really the only other driver that could attack them, and with him only being one spot above them and not into the race win, that pretty much locks it up for the number 5, Aaron Beaver and Patrick Boyd and their respective teams were not involved with this fight at all. Whoa, now we see another reason why Eric Soy let him go. He was coming to pit road. He didn't want a chance being run over from behind.
Yeah, smart move. You got to come down pit road anyway. Unfortunately, he didn't catch the caution that he needed to stretch the fuel out. So the 0-17 having to come down, take a splash of gas with about 3.5 minutes left to go in this thing. Looks like Santos having to do the same thing in the GTPs. They pitted a little bit too early, so the 42 having to come back down pit road one last time. He's given up some valuable track position, putting Garrido back up into the top 4.
Yeah, Francisco Santos Pereira having to come down for the DS Racing Esports team in their number 42 Cadillac GTP. 3 minutes to go. That'll translate into about 2 laps left once we cross the start-finish line, this time by for Alvaro Martinez, who has put on a clinic and pure domination, leading every single lap in GTP, except for the 1 or 2 where he had to come down to pit road and lost the lead that way.
Have we seen that in Visca this year? Have we seen somebody dominate a race like they have dominated this sprint race?
Going got pretty close in the 12 hours of Sebring, although Rising Panda Racing put a good challenge up to them too.
Nervy moment there on the replay, just about catching one of the digital chicanes out completely. I believe that was the 80, so he might be in a battle for third here pretty soon as we see our race leader coming down to take 2 to go. Nervy moments aren't done until you take the checkered flag.
So 2 laps to go. Next lap will be the last one. What a drive it has been for Martinez and all these other drivers in this field. This World of Sim Racing car deserves to be able to fight up there for the championship. It's just a shame that the start of the season didn't go the way they were hoping for, and it keeps them from being able to mount the charge on Nicholas Peterson and Mayer Simpson's performance for the GTP championship.
Yeah, maybe a little bit too far back to actually compete in the championship, but a race like this for Martinez and that number 51 team really puts the series on notice, right? Puts the entire GTP field kind of on alert mode for next season. Seeing the 51 have this much pace here at VIR, is this pace that they've kind of found everywhere? Have they figured something out that maybe they didn't have at the beginning of the season? We'll have to wait until next season to find out for sure, but you know, still 2 races left in this one. That 51's trying to end it off on a high note.
Yeah, they really have picked up a lot of pace this year. You're not kidding. I mean, these guys have been absolutely putting on a clinic over the last little while, and they're not the only ones, right? I mean, Rising Panda Racing, they had a rocky start to their season as well, and they have been slowly reeling it going and are now right up there for the overall championship as well. Well, a little heads up there. Look out for your own sister car. But final lap, we're working it now. And this is looking to be a solid win for the World of Sim Racing team crew and their Cadillac GTP. It's been an absolute phenomenal drive for them, and this should get them their 2nd win of the season.
And it's just in such a dominating performance, too. That's the big thing, is just how dominant they have been all race long. Up at the front of the field, not giving that race lead away unless they absolutely have to under pit stops. I mean, it's been fantastic from the entire 51 team here tonight. Alvaro Martinez behind the wheel currently. Danny Fonte drove a hell of a first stint. It's just been a complete team effort by the 2 of those guys.
Martinez going to work his way through Oak Tree Bend or No Tree Bend, depending on who you are. Ooh.
GT Pro's race lead has just swapped hands. Carrera's taking it down the back straightaway.
Bruno Carrera to the point, but they're still going to have a lap to get this settled, but trouble for John Goodwin.
The 6 is out of gas or something. He's slow.
Oh, yeah, that's fuel. Goodwin couldn't make it. Torque Freak Racing is down and out. It's heartbreak for Goodwin. It's heartbreak for Torque Freak Racing. And here comes Alvaro Martinez, looking like one of the 4 Mustang GT3s might be out of gas as well behind. And for John Goodwin, it is a disaster for Torque Freak Racing. A win is stripped away. Alvaro Martinez, though, takes the checker flag for the World of Sim Racing GTP. And at the back, Bruno Carrera, looking like he'll have to go 1 more lap before this can be secure for him.
Boiler's off the racetrack. He's thrown it away. Beaver has gone through for the race win in GTM.
Aaron Beaver takes the win for Mayor Simsbury Performance, and in doing so, he takes his win in GTM for the championship, and it'll be the same for Jack Hedgecox. Bruno Carrera has to do one more lap. Huge dramas and chaos everywhere on the final lap.
Oh, it was a shoddy rejoin by the 86, just took out the GT Pro leader in the last sector of the last lap.
This is what happened to Rico Kohlmeyer on the final laps. One of the LMP2s having trouble. Just lost the tail end and spun that thing around. And then this is what happened to Patrick Boylard.
He got passed by Harmoning, and then Harmoning overdrove the corner, 2 wheels off into the grass, comes back on and clips the left rear in the last sector of the last lap.
And there goes Beaver, taking the spot away. Unbelievable. So much drama on the final lap. I mean, Goodwin runs out of fuel on the final lap for Torque Freak Racing. LMP2 came through with no problems. Ken Prager was really looking to put on the charge, but Goen just had what it took to hang on to the win from Rising Panda Racing. Aaron Beaver steals the win after Off the S's Racing gets punted off the racetrack, and that drops them all the way back to 4th. I feel like the GTP and the LMP2 leads were the only ones that didn't have any problems on that final lap.
I don't even know what to tell you. I mean, what in the world has happened on that last lap? Both of our GT classes swapped leaders. Goodwin in the 6. I gotta say, they weren't out of gas, but I think that they would have been if they ran one extra lap, so they had to lift and give up that first place position to finish in second behind the leader, because he hit the gas afterwards. So much happened on that last lap that I don't even know what to tell you. I mean, just craziness at the end of these things.
Holy cow, major dramas that we have here on this afternoon. And well, we'll look set to take a rundown of your official post-race results in just a few moments, waiting for the last few cars to come across the start-finish line. And wow, I am at a bit of a loss for words on that one, but we'll take a rundown of your official post-race results from the Virginia Sports Car Grand Prix. Taking it up here this afternoon, it is going to be none other for the GTP win than Alvaro Martinez. Finally goes back-to-back with World of Sim Racing Team, along with Mayor Simsbury Performance. NGC Esports Team by Rubens Goss takes it home on the podium. GS Racing Esports Team finishes 4th and 5th. The last cars on the lead lap. Fisher Motorsports, 4 down. Grizzly, 5 down. HJC, 9. Bravo Shafton, the lone DNF on the night.
Going over to the LMP2, ended up being pretty close at the finish. Going Racing in first. Rising Panda Racing only 0.3 of a second back in second. Rusty Spatulas Racing in at number 112, finishing on the podium. Vision One Motorsports in fourth. Tri-State Racing is number 321 in fifth. Fisher Motorsport in number 14 in sixth. Gowers S's Racing number 048 in seventh. Tri-State Racing is 123 in eighth. GSE Racing Esports in the 86, 10 laps off the pace, with Vulture Motorsports down and out of the race in 10th.
That's going to move us down to GT Pro, where we're going to have the likes of DS Racing Esports Team taking up the race win after they tank it for Torque Freak Racing, who couldn't have enough fuel to go one more lap. Fisher Motorsports will finish 3rd and 4th, and that will take Fisher Motorsports' Sprint Cup Championship as well. Vulture Motorsports in 5th, North Sim Racing 6th, Kinetic Racing, RPM Racing, World of Sim Racing Team, Race Tech Competition, and Delta Racing close out the GT Pro field.
Moving over to the GT AMs, we saw some craziness at the finish, and that allows Mayor Simsbury Performance to win the race at the end of the day in that number 34 Rising Panda Racing. Sorry, excuse me. What in the world? I'm still looking at the LMP2s on my end. Digital Chicane's number 80 somehow recovers from that terrible start to the race and finishes in second, ahead of Screeching Moose Motorsports in third. Vulture Motorsports number 017 in fourth. Dingler Performance in fifth. DS Racing Esports Team 6. Digital Chicane's number 93 in seventh. Off in the S's Racing in eighth. Real Picture Motorsport ninth. Wolf Motorsports Sim Racing in 10th. Firestone Motorsports number 29 and 11th. And Vulture Motorsports rounds out the field tonight.
And that is going to leave us down into the closing stages here of this race. Holy cow, I am at a bit of a loss for words on that one. That was complete and utter carnage. We'll get a chat with all of the class winners, hopefully, in just a moment. For now, we'll take a step back and we'll return in just a moment on Green Flag TV.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Green Flag TV. We are just entering the post-race show, and we'll look to bring in your LMP2 winners. And they are not just the winners of the race, but they will take, provisionally at least, the LMP2 Sprint Cup Championship as well. Jack Hedgecox and Nicholas Goen will join us up here in the broadcast booth. And, well, Jack, we'll start with you. You drove the car through to the win this afternoon. How does it feel knowing that you've helped get your team a championship by taking that checkered flag?
It was pretty nice, especially how the last race before we had that break was. This was really our main goal, and just wanted to keep it clean. And there was, especially with traffic, there was plenty of times in that race where I think that gap between me and us and Panda went up and down by 3 seconds. It was really close, so it was really tense, but we got it at the end. So I can't say enough about how great this team is, and that we secured it.
And Nick, you were, of course, the driver that ran a good chunk of the start of this race. You took that thing past the halfway mark and through the first safety car period as well. What kept you in the car past that safety car period instead of going for the driver swap when you had the free chance?
Well, I mean, just the driver stance, because I'm required to drive at least half, so I just felt like we both felt like that was the safe thing to do, and then just get Jack in the car later in the race with fresher tires than anyone else, just so he could battle his way to the end. Yeah, that was just pure strategy. We were kind of like 50-50 on what we wanted to do, but ended up working out for us.
So provisionally, of course, you have both taken the LMP2 Sprint Cup Championship. You were over 100 points clear coming into this race. Of course, still unofficial. We're going to have to wait for all of the points to be tallied up after this race, all the penalties to be handed down. But it's looking solid for you guys for the Sprint Cup. You look to the overall championship, though, and it is effectively a heads-up grudge match between yourselves and Rising Panda Racing. Only 13 points were separating you entering this race. You should retake the points lead with this win tonight. How confident are the both of you that you're going to be able to go out and take a championship not this afternoon, but in the last 2 races?
I mean, we're gonna.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Chuck.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think we just need to put in the prep, especially with just getting the practice in, especially like at this track, for example. I mean, it's not one that is usually seen in many series, so just putting in the time and effort, and if we can just keep that consistency, keeping it clean and finishing next to Panda, I feel like we'll have a great shot at the championship later on in the next 2 rounds.
Well, for both of you, it's been an absolute blast to be able to have you on up here. The next race coming up, it'll, of course, be Homestead Miami Speedway. It's a very unique racetrack. Not a lot of series tend to go there all that often. Nick, we'll start with you, and then we'll pick it up with Jack as well. What do you think your thoughts are on how the next race could pan out for the 6 hours of racing we'll have there?
It's gonna be interesting. I don't have a lot of time on that track. I think Jack's driven it once or twice. I mean, there's a handful of us on the team, so I feel pretty confident going there. It's definitely a unique track. It's going to be pretty tight in some areas, but I have full confidence in our team just to be able to maintain and hold on to our lead. But it's going to be tough. I mean, Rising Panda is no they're a contender for sure. They're going to make it hard for us to stay out front.
Well, thank you guys for both taking the time to join us up here in the broadcast booth. Congratulations on not just taking another win, but for also potentially taking with it the LMP2 Sprint Cup Championship. We'll see if you can double it up in the Endurance Cup and, of course, for the overall championship over the next 2 months.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Nicholas Gowen and Jack Hedgecox, your race winners this afternoon in LMP2. We'll move on down. Usually we talk to the class winners, but with the GTM winners being a no-show, we'll instead bring in the GTM class champions. It'll be Sean Hatfield and Lucas Santos coming home, just barely taking the GTM championship with that top 5 finish, and it'll be Austin standing by with them.
Oh boy, guys, it seems like we interview you just about every single week. Even whenever you don't win the race, we're going to be interviewing you because you bring home the Sprint Race Championship this time around. It didn't go without a little bit of scariness there at the end. The 80 getting by y'all, and then some other cars getting in between. But y'all are able to keep that gap down to just between you and the 80 to no cars in between. Was that really the difference in winning the championship here tonight? Just minimizing the damage?
That's more or less what it feels like it boils down to. Every once in a while, the racing gods reach out and, make things interesting, and they certainly did this week. I got to give shout-outs and congratulations to the 34. Good job on the race win, and, hearts out to the guys in the 83?
83.
The 83 guys. I'm so sorry that happened to you guys. But yeah, this was just definitely one of those races where the racing gods wanted to make things interesting. It's stressful, it's fun, it's infuriating, but that's racing. What can you do?
Well, y'all put yourselves in this position by having such great races at the beginning of the season. Every single time that we came out here at the beginning of the year, y'all were the guys at the top of the GTM standings, whether it be a sprint race or one of the more long distance endurance style races that we have. So is this more just a testament of the season long pace that y'all have had and just being able to contend towards the front of the field the whole season long? And even whenever you're not winning races, you're on the podium.
I want to say it's definitely the amount of work and learning we have done over the past year. Last year, was our first season here at the VSCA, and now we're getting performances like this. It just, like you said, it's a testament to the season-long pace, but I mean, that comes with learning from last year. That comes with going against everybody on the GT field in general, getting used to all the prototypes. It's all the teamwork that Screeching Moose Motorsports, us two, have been absolutely putting down, all the training that we've been doing. So it's a combination. Can't really say it's like season-long pace. It's from learning everything that we've done for the past 2 years. So this is amazing.
Well, y'all had a great race tonight. It did seem like it was getting to be a little sketchy there at the end. Sean, behind the wheel at the end, a couple little spins or issues with other drivers out on the racetrack. Was it kind of a heart in your mouth moment having the back end step out there at the end, knowing that you just about had the championship locked up, but all of a sudden the back tires start skidding off the racetrack?
That car may have looked like it was squirrely, but she was hooked up. That car, I knew exactly where it was going to go, exactly what it was going to do. These guys put in a lot of work to get this car squared away for me to push that hard. And some of my friends back here, there's a term that we like to call drive angry. It was full on drive angry during that whole final stint while I was in the car, and I couldn't have asked for a better car.
Well, congratulations to both of you for putting in a heck of amount of work to get yourselves to this point to win the sprint championship. And obviously we got one more championship that you are racing for at the end of the season that y'all are looking pretty good in. So what are you feeling going up to the last 2 races of the season? Do you think you can pull off the double?
That's the aim. That'll be the absolute aim. But we're gonna put in the time and effort. You can absolutely be for sure for that one. We're gonna put in the time and effort in order to get this last championship down.
What were you guys saying there at the start of the broadcast as well? One at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nolan did a good job pointing out your little hashtag on the front. We're getting a good little view of it right now as well. So congratulations on taking it one race at a time and bringing home the sprint race championship. Looking forward to seeing what you can do over the next 2 to see if you can double it up, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks, y'all.
Appreciate it,
All
guys.
right.
Thanks.
That was Screeching Moose Motorsports, Lucas Santos and Sean Hatfield coming up into the broadcast booth here today, giving us a little bit of a talking to. Big congratulations to those guys winning the sprint championship here tonight.
Boy, oh boy, what a race it was this afternoon. Doesn't look like we'll get any other class champions or class winners to talk to us here this afternoon, Austin. But I tell you what, that race was phenomenal. What a way to come back from the summer break. I mean, you had all the carnage and the chaos that was Road America with an absolute torrential rainstorm in Wisconsin. But here in the Land for Lovers, we find ourselves in with an absolutely solid race. Nice, clear skies. We can't say the same if it'll be the same for Florida because, well, you know how Florida weather can be. But who knows, right? Homestead Miami Speedway, it's a new quantity for sure, and it should be a fantastic race for these drivers. It's just a shame we got to wait a month for it.
Oh, man, we have to wait a whole nother month? It's been like a 2-month break. My goodness, the summer breaks are a little bigger than I expected here in the VSCA Sports Car Championship. That's for sure. I feel like it's been 2 months since we've called the Road America race, but
it has
looking
been 2
forward
months
to
since
it.
we called the Road America race.
Oh my word. Okay, well, you know what? I'm looking forward to the next month going by really fast so that we can get back to racing at Homestead.
Oh, I'm sure. And, of course, there's a lot of racing action coming up on Greenflight TV. Not throughout tomorrow or on Monday, but we will be back on Tuesday for a doubleheader. Sunday's race for the SRO Next Gen Cup Series for the Brickyard will be done live to tape, and that will be uploaded for a premiere back-to-back with the SRO Cup Series on Tuesday. And then, of course, the Beer League swings out to the Sunshine State. They'll be racing down at Miami, at Homestead Miami Speedway for their 5th round of competition. Then, of course, the Speed Cup Series back for more at the track Too Tough to Tame in South Carolina. Once again, a huge thanks to Twin Bush for sponsoring this championship and allowing us to bring you all of the races we've had so far this season. It has been an absolute joy to cover such an awesome sports car championship. And we'll no doubt be looking set for more action when we go racing next month down at Miami for VSCA. My name is Nolan Ramble alongside Austin Edstrom. If you want to find out more about who we are and what we can offer you, check us out today at www.greenflagtv.com. Thank you for joining us once again for the VSCA Sports Car Grand Prix from Virginia. We'll see you next month in Miami.